Tonight, we'll drift back through time to a world where beauty was more than appearance. It was faith, class, and power woven together, a mirror reflecting who you were meant to be. You're listening to Restless Historian, a place where history doesn't shout or rush. It whispers slowly through the corridors of time. Before we begin, take a breath. Let your shoulders ease, your jaw loosen, your eyes soften. If you're listening from your bed, let the fabric beneath you grow warm and still. Now, as you listen, I'd like to know where in the world you're hearing this from. Leave a comment when you wake. Tell us which corner of the earth our story reached tonight. And if you enjoy these quiet journeys through the past, consider subscribing and supporting. Patreon link is in description. It helps this small corner of history keep glowing a little longer in the dark. Now close your eyes. Let the world outside fade to silence. We'll begin our descent, not into noise or war or empire, but into something softer, into the endless human desire to be seen as beautiful. Tonight, we travel back through centuries to a time often called the Middle Ages, a period of winding cobblestone streets, towering stone castles, quiet villages, and fields that stretch far into the horizon. It is a time of both simplicity and complexity, a world governed by rhythms of the sun, the seasons, and the cycles of life. And within this world, the pursuit of beauty was not merely an aesthetic desire, it was a reflection of social order, cultural ideals, and personal identity, a way of expressing status, virtue, and sometimes even divine favor. In medieval society, beauty held a significance that went far beyond appearances. It was an unspoken language, a way for individuals to communicate their place within the intricate hierarchy of the time. Pale skin, for example, was not only a fashion statement, but a subtle indication of wealth and privilege. Those who worked outdoors, tending fields or performing laborious tasks, naturally acquired a sun-tanned complexion, while the upper classes could afford the leisure and comfort that allowed their skin to remain soft, smooth, and pale. Such an attribute became highly desirable, symbolizing refinement and detachment from the hard labor that defined much of medieval life. Yet beauty was never purely about status. It was entwined with moral and spiritual ideals. Clear skin, healthy hair, and graceful hands were thought to reflect inner purity, a harmony between body and soul, a gentle affirmation of one's virtue and propriety. Across different regions of Europe, the definitions of beauty were subtly distinct, influenced by local culture, climate, and societal norms. In northern lands, where winters were long and summers brief, pale skin and light features were often admired, whereas in Mediterranean regions, richer complexions could carry their own associations of health and vitality. Nevertheless, there were certain universal ideals, particularly among the upper classes, that transcended regional variations. Long hair, for instance, was widely regarded as a sign of youth, fertility, and vitality. The ways in which it was styled, braided, and cared for were as much a reflection of personal taste as they were a demonstration of discipline and propriety. Women often spent hours preparing their hair, combing it carefully, smoothing it into braids, or arranging it under veils, the strands dusted with fragrant powders and oils. Men, too, attended to their hair and beards, trimming them meticulously, combing them daily, and sometimes even coloring them with natural dyes to achieve a desired hue or sheen. The symbolism behind these practices extended beyond mere vanity. Pale skin suggested refinement, but it also indicated a life that was, in theory, morally and socially elevated, a life of leisure and grace rather than toil. Soft hands were admired not only for their aesthetic appeal, but for what they implied about one's daily activities and social standing. Eyes, bright and clear, carried associations with wisdom, alertness, and spiritual awareness. Hair, carefully maintained, was both a measure of health and a signal of fertility, and the way it was presented, whether flowing freely, gathered in braids, or covered with elaborate headwear, communicated subtle messages about a person's place in the world. Every detail of appearance, from the tip of a finger to the curve of a braid, was laden with meaning, a quiet language understood by those living within the intricate social structures of the Middle Ages. Religion also played a significant role in shaping beauty ideals. In many parts of medieval Europe, the Church influenced both the moral and aesthetic frameworks of daily life. Modesty, for instance, was often celebrated as a reflection of spiritual virtue. Women were encouraged to dress and present themselves in ways that balanced elegance with humility, a principle that guided both clothing choices and personal grooming. Yet paradoxically, the Church and religious institutions often tolerated or even encouraged lavish decoration in certain contexts. Royalty and nobility were permitted and at times expected to display wealth through elaborate garments, precious jewelry and carefully styled hair, for these were seen as symbols of divine favor and social order. Within the delicate tension between modesty and display, individuals navigated their own presentations, blending personal taste, cultural expectation, and religious guidance into a unique expression of beauty. Folklore and myth also left their mark on medieval conceptions of attractiveness. Tales of fairies, enchanted maidens, and legendary kings shaped the imagination, inspiring ideals of form and color that extended into everyday life. Floral motifs, shimmering fabrics, and the hues of the natural world often inspired choices in makeup, dyes, and hair treatments. Herbs, flowers, and other natural materials were used not only for their aesthetic qualities, but for their symbolic meanings. Rose petals, for example, carried associations with love and purity, while lavender suggested refinement and calm. These elements were incorporated into powders, oils, and lotions, enhancing appearance while simultaneously connecting the individual to the rhythms of nature and the wisdom of generations past. The pursuit of beauty also extended into gentle practices that bordered on ritual. Softening the skin, for instance, often involved baths infused with herbs and flowers, carefully chosen for their fragrance and supposed beneficial properties. Powders made from finely ground minerals, combined with plant extracts, were applied delicately to the face, hands, and exposed skin to create a smooth, pale appearance. Such practices were often slow and deliberate, a mindful engagement with one's own body and presence, and a quiet, almost meditative affirmation of care and attention. In this way, beauty was as much about process as result, a gentle daily ritual that invited calm reflection and intentionality. Men and women alike were attentive to the details that conveyed health, vigor, and social propriety. In addition to skin and hair, the condition of the hands, teeth, and eyes was carefully observed. Bright, clear eyes were associated with intelligence and moral clarity. Well-kept teeth suggested both hygiene and status, while soft, well-tended hands indicated refinement and capability. Even posture, the way a person carried themselves while walking or standing, was considered a vital part of attractiveness. In courts and noble households, individuals were trained from a young age in the nuances of comportment, learning to walk, gesture, and speak in ways that projected grace, confidence, and social understanding. In this way, beauty encompassed far more than physical appearance. It was the presentation of the entire self, an outward reflection of inner virtue and societal alignment. The influence of the upper classes on beauty standards cannot be overstated. Noble women, in particular, were often the trendsetters, their appearance chronicled in portraits, manuscripts, and letters, setting the benchmarks for others to admire or emulate. Dresses were carefully chosen for their colors, fabrics, and embroidery, each element contributing to a sense of elegance and refinement. Accessories, from delicate rings and necklaces to veils and ribbons, added subtle complexity to appearance. Every detail, no matter how small, was laden with meaning, signaling wealth, taste, and alignment with the prevailing cultural and moral ideals of the time. Even the simplest gestures, a lifted chin, a gentle smile, or a carefully arranged braid, carried social weight, quietly communicating identity and intention to those around. Yet beauty was not confined to the wealthy or noble alone. Villagers and townsfolk, though limited in resources, still pursued ideals within their means, using herbs, homemade oils, and simple powders to care for skin and hair. Their beauty practices were often tied to the rhythms of daily life, influenced by the changing seasons and the availability of natural materials. A woman might steep rose petals in warm water to cleanse her face, or rub oatmeal into her skin to soften and soothe. A man might comb his hair with a wooden brush, brushing away dust and tangles as part of a quiet, reflective routine. In these humble practices, we can see a deep human desire to connect with one's own body, to present oneself thoughtfully to the world, and to engage in the gentle art of self-care. As we reflect on this world, imagine the quiet moments that surrounded the pursuit of beauty. Picture a noble woman preparing for a day in her castle, the morning sun filtering through narrow windows, her hair arranged in intricate braids, scented powders gently dusting her pale skin. Picture a man in the courtyard, brushing his tunic and combing his hair, preparing to greet visitors with measured dignity. Hear the soft shuffle of servants attending to their tasks, the distant clatter of horseshoes on cobblestone, the gentle whisper of the wind through trees surrounding a quiet village. In these moments, beauty was both an art and a ritual, a way of inhabiting the world with care, attention, and grace. The pursuit of beauty in the Middle Ages was also a reflection of hope and aspiration. It was a way to engage with ideals, to connect with society, and to align with cultural and spiritual values. Every powder, every ribbon, every gentle stroke of a comb or brush carried with it intention, care, and mindfulness. And yet, for all its complexity, there was a simplicity too, the desire to be seen, to be admired, and to reflect one's inner qualities outwardly. It was a deeply human endeavor, echoing across centuries to remind us of our own longing for self-expression and acceptance. As you listen and imagine this world, allow yourself to settle into the quiet rhythms of the past. Visualize the textures, the scents, the soft play of candlelight on stone walls, the delicate folds of fabric, the subtle fragrance of herbs and flowers drifting through air. Imagine the care taken in simple acts, brushing hair, applying gentle powders, arranging garments. Picture hands moving slowly, thoughtfully, as if each action were a meditation. Notice how every detail tells a story of culture, society, and human desire, a story that unfolds quietly, patiently, like the turning of a page in an ancient manuscript. The world of medieval beauty was intricate, gentle, and surprisingly intimate. It was a world where every aspect of appearance carried meaning, yet each act of care could also be a moment of personal reflection, a quiet ritual to honor oneself. Pale skin, soft hands, bright eyes, carefully arranged hair. These were not merely aesthetic choices. They were expressions of identity, social belonging, and the delicate interplay between inner character and outward presentation. And in this interplay, we find a timeless echo of our own fascination with beauty, a reminder that across centuries, humans have sought not only to be seen, but to be understood, appreciated, and remembered. Tonight, as you drift gently through these stories, let the soft details of medieval life envelop your imagination. Let the quiet elegance of castles and cottages, the gentle rituals of daily care, and the subtle symbolism of beauty fill your mind like a soft, calming tapestry. Picture yourself observing, not hurriedly, but with patience and curiosity, letting the world of the past unfold slowly, carefully, and peacefully around you. In this way, the pursuit of beauty becomes not just history, but a gentle, immersive experience, one that soothes the mind and allows the imagination to wander freely, safely, and calmly through time. Tonight, let us linger a little longer in the delicate world of medieval beauty, focusing our attention on one of the most cherished and carefully tended aspects of appearance: the skin. In the Middle Ages, skin was more than a physical surface. It was a canvas, a silent messenger of health, status, and even virtue. Pale, soft, unblemished skin was often the hallmark of refinement, a subtle signal that one lived a life removed from the sunlit labor of fields and pastures, a life cushioned by privilege and gentle routines. It was a quality admired across social classes, though for the wealthy it could be displayed in elaborate rituals, while for those with fewer resources it was sought through simpler, more natural means. Imagine, if you will, a quiet morning in a noblewoman's chamber. The soft light of dawn filters through narrow, latticed windows, dust motes drifting slowly in the beams. She sits before a polished wooden table, a small basin of water at her side, a delicate cloth in her hands. With patience and care, she applies a thin layer of fine powder to her face, smoothing it over her skin with gentle, circular motions. This powder, often made from crushed minerals, chalk, or even lead, is carefully chosen for its ability to lighten the complexion, to create the soft, luminous effect that signifies both elegance and status. Though modern ears might hear warnings of toxicity, in that quiet chamber, this ritual is performed with reverence, a daily act of self-presentation, discipline, and quiet pride. For those outside the noble courts, the pursuit of pale skin took different forms. Women in villages and towns relied on the gifts of the earth: clay, finely ground oatmeal, herbs steeped in warm water, or mashed petals of roses and other flowers. These natural remedies, applied with care, could soften the skin, soothe irritation, and gently lighten the face, creating a subtle radiance that reflected health and attentiveness. The process itself was calming, a quiet moment in an otherwise busy day where one could pause, focus on gentle movements, and feel connected to the cycles of nature. The simple act of rubbing petals or clay onto the skin was both practical and meditative, a ritual that nurtured the body and offered a small, comforting sense of control over one's appearance. Yet pale skin alone was not enough. A gentle blush, the faintest hint of color upon the cheeks, was highly sought after, symbolizing health, vitality, and youth. It was a soft glow, a whisper of life beneath the surface of porcelain tones. Nobles and commoners alike created blush using berries, beetroot, and a variety of mineral pigments. Applied lightly with fingertips or soft cloths, these tints added warmth to otherwise pale complexions, creating a balance between delicate refinement and natural vitality. In this pursuit, patience and subtlety were key, for beauty in the Middle Ages was rarely about bold statements. It was quiet, gentle, and understated, a language understood by those who observed it with careful attention. The care of skin extended beyond aesthetics into realms that bridged beauty and health. Certain herbs were believed to prevent blemishes, soothe irritation, and maintain a youthful appearance. Chamomile, rose, lavender, and marigold were commonly used, infused into waters for washing, ground into powders, or steeped into oils for gentle massage. These natural ingredients were thought not only to enhance appearance, but to harmonize the body with the elements, balancing warmth and moisture, cleansing away impurities and leaving a soft, subtle fragrance in their wake. The use of these remedies was a ritual of attentiveness, a slow and deliberate process that required time, patience, and a gentle touch, qualities that contributed as much to the impression of beauty as the resulting appearance itself. In some medieval texts, beauty and health are described almost interchangeably, for one was considered a reflection of the other. Clear skin, a smooth texture, and even tone suggested internal harmony, strength, and vitality. When blemishes appeared, small pimples, redness, or uneven patches, they were addressed not only as cosmetic issues, but as signs to be understood and remedied. Infusions of herbs, poultices made from crushed leaves or petals, and gentle exfoliation with soft clays were common methods. The remedies were often accompanied by careful instructions: apply in the cool morning, leave for a measured time, and always wash with soft water. The act of caring for one's skin was, in this sense, a quiet meditation, a daily ritual that combined practicality with mindfulness, producing results that were both visible and, in their own way, soothing to the mind. The pursuit of pale skin and gentle blushes sometimes led to more extreme methods, particularly among the wealthier classes. Powdered lead, vinegar, and other mineral-based substances were used to achieve striking whiteness, despite the health risks that were only partially understood. Women would apply these powders in thin, delicate layers, reapplying as needed throughout the day to maintain the ideal. It was a slow, careful process, performed with the guidance of attendants, or learned from handwritten recipes passed through generations. The rituals surrounding skincare were elaborate, often taking hours each day, and required focus, patience, and a steady hand. Even the scent of the powders, faint and slightly metallic, became a part of the personal identity of those who used them, adding to the layered experience of beauty as both visual and sensory. Beyond powders and blushes, oils and scented waters were fundamental to maintaining skin's softness and luster. Olive oil, almond oil, and other plant-based extracts were gently rubbed into the skin, sometimes mixed with finely ground herbs or flowers. These oils nourished the skin, creating a subtle sheen that complemented the pale, powdered complexion. Scented waters infused with rose, lavender, or rosemary added an aromatic quality, producing a gentle fragrance that lingered softly in the air. This combination of visual and olfactory refinement enhanced not only appearance, but also presence, leaving an impression of calm, attentiveness, and gentle elegance. The care of skin was also intertwined with seasonal awareness. In the harsh cold of northern winters, additional measures were taken to protect the delicate surface of the face and hands. Warm oils, creams made from beeswax, and protective layers of clothing or veils were employed to shield the skin from wind, frost, and dryness. In spring and summer, lighter powders and washes were favored, incorporating petals, herbs, and gentle exfoliants to maintain a soft and even tone. These adjustments reflected a careful understanding of the interaction between the body and the environment, a mindfulness that extended the practices of beauty into a subtle dialogue with the natural world. It is also important to consider that beauty was not only about the face. Hands, often the most visible part of the body during daily interactions, were tended with equal care. Gentle washing with soft water, application of oils, and avoidance of harsh labor produced hands that were admired for their softness and elegance. Nails were trimmed carefully, sometimes buffed or coated with natural substances to give a subtle shine. Even the fingertips, when clean and well maintained, became a small but significant part of the overall presentation, a reflection of care, propriety, and refinement. Blemishes and imperfections were addressed not only for aesthetic reasons but for the symbolic and social messages they carried. In a society attentive to both appearance and virtue, clear skin was associated with moral and physical health. Herbal remedies were common, with chamomile, rosemary, and other plants used to soothe irritation, cleanse pores, and gently purify the skin. Sometimes, superstition intertwined with practice, charms, rituals, and symbolic gestures were employed alongside practical treatments, reflecting a worldview where beauty, health, and spiritual well-being were deeply interconnected. These practices were rarely hurried. They were performed with patience, reverence, and care, producing not only visible effects but also a sense of calm and intentionality. The use of makeup, powders, and oils was highly ritualized. Each step, from cleansing to application, was performed slowly, deliberately, with attention to the smallest details. This careful pace contributed to a sense of calm and mindfulness, transforming the act of self-care into a gentle meditation. The process was both internal and external. As the skin became softer, Lighter and more luminous, the individual engaged in a quiet dialogue with themselves, a reflection on status, virtue, and personal presence. In this way, beauty in medieval times was not merely a superficial pursuit. It was an immersive experience, a blending of sensory, symbolic, and social dimension. Even for those who could not afford expensive powders or oils, the principles remained the same. Simple remedies, clay, oatmeal, petals, gentle oils, were used to nurture the skin, providing both care and comfort. The act of attending to oneself, of performing deliberate and patient gestures, was itself a form of refinement. In the quiet of a small chamber or a village home, these practices allowed individuals to participate in the broader cultural appreciation of beauty, creating a subtle yet meaningful connection to ideals that spanned classes and regions. As the day progressed in a medieval household, the care of skin continued with quiet attentiveness. Powder might be reapplied, oils gently massaged in, and fragrant waters sprinkled lightly over exposed skin. Each gesture was slow, purposeful, and mindful, a ritual that honored both the body and the societal standards that defined beauty. Observing these acts is like witnessing a dance of patience and precision, where each movement contributes to a larger tapestry of appearance, symbolism, and cultural meaning. In conclusion, the care of skin in medieval times was a multifaceted practice that blended aesthetics, health, and symbolism into gentle, deliberate routines. Pale skin, soft hands, subtle blushes, and luminous textures were markers of status, virtue, and refinement. Whether through expensive powders, delicate oils, or simple herbal remedies, individuals engaged in these rituals with patience, mindfulness, and care, producing results that were both visible and calming in their effect. By understanding these practices, we gain insight not only into the standards of beauty that guided medieval society, but also into the quiet, meditative moments that allowed people to connect with themselves, their surroundings, and their place within the world. Tonight, as you listen and imagine these delicate rituals, let your mind wander gently through the sun-dappled chambers, the quiet village streets, and the softly scented rooms where beauty was nurtured with patience and care. Let yourself feel the rhythm of these acts, slow, deliberate, and intentional, and let the soft imagery guide you into a calm, restful state. The pursuit of beauty in all its subtlety and grace becomes not just history, but a gentle meditation, a quiet journey through a world long past, yet resonant with human desire, care, and attentiveness. Tonight, let us turn our attention to another essential aspect of medieval beauty, one that occupied both thought and time with a quiet intensity: the hair. Hair in the Middle Ages was far more than a personal feature. It was a symbol, a statement, and a medium through which individuals communicated identity, status, and even morality. In a world where appearance held profound social significance, the way hair was maintained, arranged, and adorned carried subtle messages that could be understood without a single word spoken. Imagine then a gentle morning in a quiet castle chamber, the air cool and soft, scented faintly with herbs and oils. A young woman sits before a mirror, combing slowly through her long, flowing hair, each stroke deliberate, each strand carefully attended to. The rhythm of the combing, the soft whisper of the hair moving through fingers, creates a sense of calm, of meditation, as well as a reflection of meticulous care. For women, hair was a primary marker of beauty and virtue. Long, glossy hair, free of tangles and radiant in the soft candlelight, was admired as a sign of health and youth. It was also symbolic of fertility and, in a society deeply concerned with lineage and inheritance, a subtle reflection of potential and vitality. Women often took extraordinary care in cultivating the ideal length and texture. Hair was washed with water, infused with herbs such as rosemary, lavender, or chamomile, sometimes scented with flowers or oils to enhance both fragrance and shine. Once cleaned, it would be combed gently to remove tangles, dusted with fine powders, and sometimes braided or arranged in elaborate styles that could take hours to achieve. Each braid, twist, or coil was more than decorative. It was a display of patience, precision, and refinement, a visual representation of discipline and careful attention to one's own presence. Braiding, in particular, held a special place in medieval hair care. Intricate patterns, sometimes woven with ribbons, threads of gold or silver, or even small pearls, transformed hair into a living tapestry. The style of a braid could indicate age, marital status, or social position, providing subtle visual cues to observers. Imagine a noblewoman preparing for a feast or gathering. Her hair might be divided into sections, braided in a complex design, with each braid crossing and intertwining in patterns that seemed almost impossible to untangle. Small decorative elements might be woven in, catching the flicker of candlelight and lending a soft shimmer to her appearance. The process was slow, deliberate, and meditative, each motion performed with care and precision, and the final result was both a work of art and a reflection of cultural ideals. Hair care was also deeply connected to natural remedies and the gifts of the earth. Women often used plant-based dyes such as henna to achieve red or auburn tones, or saffron for golden highlights. These substances not only added color, but were thought to strengthen and nourish the hair. Oils extracted from almonds, olive, or other plants were massaged into the scalp and along the strands, softening the hair and imparting a gentle shine. In some regions, herbal infusions were used as rinses, providing subtle fragrance and conditioning effects. Each treatment was applied slowly with deliberate hands, creating a ritual of care that was as calming as it was beautifying. The very act of attending to hair became a meditative experience, a quiet passage of time in which patience, attention, and sensory awareness were cultivated alongside appearance. Head coverings played a complementary role in hair presentation. Veils, wimples, and elaborate headdresses not only framed the face but protected hair from dust, sun, and environmental wear. In noble circles, these coverings could be richly decorated with embroidery, lace, or jewels, further enhancing the visual impression of refinement and status. Imagine a woman stepping into a softly lit hall, her veil falling delicately over her braided hair, the sunlight catching threads of gold woven through her braids, creating a halo of gentle illumination. Every detail was a carefully orchestrated presentation, signaling both beauty and propriety to those around her. Men, though their hair was often less elaborate, also engaged in careful grooming practices. In the Middle Ages, hair length varied according to social status, occupation, and fashion. Nobles might wear hair slightly longer, styled with care to suggest refinement and strength, while common men often kept shorter hair for practicality. Beards were also an important element of masculine appearance. A neatly trimmed beard could suggest wisdom, maturity, and authority, while a clean-shaven face might be associated with youthfulness or certain professional roles. Like women's hair, men's hair was tended with oils, combs, and sometimes even dyes, each element contributing to the subtle language of presentation and social signaling that permeated medieval life. Hair removal was another aspect of grooming that occupied attention, particularly for women. While today we may associate such practices with fashion, in the Middle Ages they often carried symbolic or cultural significance. Plucking or depilation removed unwanted hair from the face, hands, or arms, creating a smooth appearance that reflected refinement and propriety. Recipes for hair removal included plant-based pastes, soft waxes, or powders designed to weaken hair roots. These procedures were performed with care and patience, often in quiet moments, transforming what might otherwise be uncomfortable into a ritual of attentiveness and mindfulness. The resulting smoothness of skin complemented hairstyling, creating a harmonious appearance that aligned with broader beauty ideals. The intersection of hair and social ritual was particularly pronounced in the preparation for important events. Weddings, courtly gatherings, religious ceremonies, and seasonal festivals all demanded attention to hair as a central aspect of presentation. Women might spend hours arranging their hair into elaborate patterns, combining braids, curls, and accessories, ensuring that every strand fell exactly as desired. Men would ensure that hair and beards were combed, trimmed, and treated with oils, producing a look of quiet strength and composed elegance. These acts were slow, deliberate, creating an almost ceremonial experience in which preparation itself became a form of reflection and care. Hair care also had practical dimensions beyond beauty. Well-maintained hair was easier to protect from pests such as lice, and treatments often included herbs known for their medicinal as well as cosmetic properties. Rosemary, sage, and lavender were commonly used not only for their fragrance but for their ability to discourage unwanted insects and maintain scalp health. The application of oils and powders softened hair and reduced tangling, ensuring that hair remained manageable despite long hours spent outdoors or in bustling households. In this way, beauty and practicality were intertwined, producing results that were both visually pleasing and functionally beneficial. Beyond individual care, the communal aspects of hair preparation were significant. Women often assisted one another in arranging braids, washing hair, or applying oils, creating a quiet intimacy and shared understanding of beauty practices. This cooperative approach fostered bonds and reinforced cultural ideals, passing knowledge from one generation to the next in soft, deliberate gestures and whispered instructions. Similarly, men might seek advice from attendants or peers in maintaining a proper beard or hairstyle, learning subtle techniques that conveyed refinement and awareness of social expectations. In every instance, hair care was not solitary but embedded within the social fabric, a shared language of presentation, propriety, and gentle artistry. The sensory elements of hair care were subtle yet profound. The feel of smooth strands slipping through fingers, the faint scent of herbs and oils, the soft tug of a braid being gently woven, all contributed to a multi-sensory experience that was both soothing and deeply human. These tactile sensations, combined with visual observation and quiet reflection, produced a calm attentiveness that mirrored the broader rhythms of medieval life. Preparing hair was thus both an external and internal practice, a harmony of appearance, ritual, and mindful presence. Even the smallest details mattered. The parting of the hair, the precise angle of a braid, the careful placement of a ribbon or jewel all carried significance. In some regions, the color of hair or the style of braids could indicate marital status, social rank, or familial association, while subtle shifts in texture or sheen suggested attention to health and hygiene. Every motion was purposeful, every choice deliberate, reflecting a worldview in which beauty, social signaling, and personal care were deeply interconnected. As you imagine these practices, picture the textures and colors that surrounded them. Soft ribbons winding through braids, fine powders creating a gentle sheen, oils glinting in the soft morning light. Here the gentle scratch of a comb through thick hair, the whisper of fingers weaving strands together, the faint aroma of rose, lavender, or rosemary filling the air. See the subtle gleam of gold thread catching candlelight, the delicate shimmer of pearls woven into braids, the quiet satisfaction of a style completed with patience and care. In this world, hair was not merely decoration. It was a medium through which individuals communicated identity, beauty, and belonging, a living reflection of both inner and outer life. The commitment to hair care often extended throughout the day. Touch-ups were gentle and deliberate, powders lightly reapplied, braids adjusted, oils smoothed into strands. Every adjustment was performed with mindfulness, a calm acknowledgement of the interplay between appearance, environment, and personal intention. Even the act of observing one's own reflection in a softly polished mirror became a moment of quiet contemplation, an opportunity to connect with oneself and with the subtle rhythms of the surrounding world. In these moments, beauty was experienced not only visually but as a gentle meditation, a slow unfolding of sensory awareness and attentive presence. For men and women alike, hair was also a canvas for subtle experimentation. Color, texture, and style could be adjusted to suit personal preference, social expectations, or seasonal changes. Women might braid more intricately for a festival, dye strands slightly warmer for winter light, or weave in seasonal flowers. Men might comb hair differently for formal gatherings, apply oils for shine, or maintain a slightly longer style to signal rank or fashion awareness. In all cases, the choices were deliberate, slow, and immersive, producing a quiet satisfaction both in process and result. Finally, the care of hair in medieval times reflects a profound human desire to be seen, understood, and connected through visual and sensory cues. Hair, soft and carefully maintained, braided and scented, communicated refinement, patience, and social awareness. It was a marker of status, yes, but also a reflection of attention, mindfulness, and gentle artistry. In the calm, deliberate acts of washing, braiding, oiling, and adorning, individuals found moments of quiet meditation, a way to connect with themselves, their community, and the broader cultural ideals that guided their world. As you listen and imagine, picture the slow unfolding of these routines. See the fingers weaving braids, the oils glinting softly in morning light, the faint scent of herbs drifting through the air. Hear the gentle comb through smooth hair, the whispered instructions between friends or attendants, the quiet satisfaction of a style completed with care. Feel the softness, the subtle warmth, the meditative rhythm that accompanies each motion. Let this imagery settle around you like a soft, gentle cloak, and allow the calm attentiveness of medieval hair care to guide your mind into a quiet, reflective state. In this way, beauty becomes not only a historical subject, but a soothing, immersive journey through time, a gentle exploration of patience, care, and quiet artistry. Tonight, let us focus on features of the face that, though subtle, carried immense significance in medieval ideas of beauty: the eyes, the eyebrows, and the teeth. These aspects of appearance were much more than functional. They were symbols, conveyors of emotion, and indicators of health, status, and personal care. In a time when social interaction and visual cues were paramount, the careful maintenance of these features communicated messages about refinement, virtue, and attention to one's presence in the world. Imagine, if you will, a quiet chamber bathed in the soft glow of morning light, the air filled faintly with the scent of herbs and scented waters. A noblewoman sits at her mirror, attending to her eyes, gently shaping her eyebrows, and inspecting her teeth, each movement deliberate, each moment imbued with quiet mindfulness. The eyes were perhaps the most expressive and revealing feature of all. Bright, clear eyes were associated with intelligence, vitality, and moral clarity. Dull or tired eyes could be interpreted as signs of illness, fatigue, or even weakness of character. For this reason, considerable attention was given to maintaining the health and appearance of the eyes. Herbal washes, often made from chamomile, rose, or fennel, were used to cleanse and soothe irritation, reduce redness, and refresh the gaze. These remedies were applied carefully, sometimes in gentle compresses or as diluted rinses, creating a subtle, calming ritual that connected the individual not only to beauty, but also to attentiveness and self-care. The act of caring for the eyes was slow, measured, and reflective, producing both visible results and a quiet sense of presence and intention. Eyebrows, too, were an important part of the medieval aesthetic, framing the eyes and contributing to the overall harmony of the face. The ideal shape varied over time and region, but generally, smooth, softly arched eyebrows were admired, Women might pluck stray hairs, gently shaping them to achieve the desired form, while men often maintained a natural yet tidy appearance. In some circles, subtle darkening of the brows with natural pigments was practiced, enhancing definition and emphasizing expression. The process of grooming eyebrows was performed with patience and care, a gentle attention to detail that mirrored the larger commitment to overall appearance. Each careful stroke, each deliberate adjustment was a quiet act of mindfulness, reinforcing both personal discipline and social presentation. The teeth were another feature of great significance. In an age before modern dentistry, maintaining white, healthy teeth required constant care and attention. People used a variety of methods to clean and preserve their teeth, often involving herbal powders, soft cloths, and rinses made from fragrant or mildly abrasive substances. Herbs such as mint, sage, or myrrh were prized for their cleansing properties, their subtle fragrances leaving the mouth feeling fresh. The appearance of teeth was closely tied to perceptions of hygiene, social refinement, and health, and small imperfections could be addressed with gentle, careful treatments. Though remedies were limited by the knowledge and materials of the time, even in modest households, attention to teeth conveyed personal care and self-respect, while in wealthier settings, more elaborate methods reflected the desire for both aesthetic perfection and social signaling. Cosmetic enhancement of the eyes became a subtle art. Kohl, a dark powder made from natural minerals, was sometimes applied to the eyelids or along the lash line, accentuating the shape of the eyes and making them appear larger and more expressive. This practice, influenced by both regional traditions and trade, was performed with careful hands, ensuring that application remained delicate and symmetrical. While today we may view such practices as simple decoration, in the medieval context, the enhancement of eyes through careful application was a nuanced signal of refinement, taste, and adherence to contemporary ideals of beauty. It was an art that required patience, attention, and a gentle touch, transforming daily grooming into a slow, mindful practice. The interplay between eyes and expression was also recognized as essential. A bright, attentive gaze could communicate intelligence, kindness, or confidence, while a distracted or tired look might suggest fatigue or lack of social awareness. For this reason, individuals often took steps to ensure their eyes appeared lively and alert. Gentle herbal compresses, restful routines, and careful sleep all contributed to the presentation of eyes as windows to the spirit, reflecting vitality and composure. In this way, beauty was inseparable from health, behavior, and attentiveness, creating a holistic approach to appearance that extended beyond superficial measures. Eyebrow grooming, though subtle, required delicacy and precision. Stray hairs were carefully removed, the overall shape refined to complement the eyes and the natural contours of the face. Some women, particularly among the nobility, darkened or highlighted their brows with natural pigments, adding a quiet emphasis to their expressions. The process of grooming eyebrows was performed slowly, often with soft tools or gentle plucking, a meditative act that engaged the senses and required patience. In shaping eyebrows, one not only enhanced appearance but also participated in a practice of deliberate care, a ritual that reinforced mindfulness, discipline, and gentle artistry. Teeth, likewise, required regular attention. Rinsing with herbal waters, cleaning with soft cloths, or using mildly abrasive powders were common practices. The goal was not only to maintain cleanliness but to preserve the brightness and alignment of the teeth, creating a harmonious and pleasing smile. In social interactions, the visibility of teeth conveyed health, self-respect, and attentiveness to personal grooming. The process was performed with care, often in quiet moments, reflecting an understanding of the importance of small details in the overall impression of beauty and refinement. The combination of attention to eyes, eyebrows, and teeth produced a holistic effect, enhancing both aesthetic appeal and social presence. A person with bright, clear eyes, carefully shaped eyebrows, and clean, well-maintained teeth would be perceived as composed, attentive, and refined. Each element was connected to the others, creating a visual harmony that extended beyond individual features into a complete expression of health, virtue, and cultural alignment. The act of maintaining these features was deliberate and slow, a form of quiet meditation that engaged both mind and body, producing results that were simultaneously visible, tactile, and emotionally resonant. In addition to daily care, special occasions demanded more elaborate attention to these features. Festivals, religious ceremonies, feasts, and gatherings often required individuals to refine their appearance with additional care. Eyes might be enhanced with subtle kohl, eyebrows carefully shaped, and teeth cleaned and polished to maximize aesthetic impact. The process was performed with patience and attention, often in the company of attendants or family members, creating a shared ritual of preparation. These moments were not hurried. They were measured, deliberate, and reflective, a recognition that beauty was both an internal and external practice, intimately tied to the rhythms of life and the expectations of society. The sensory dimensions of caring for eyes, eyebrows, and teeth were subtle but profound. The coolness of an herbal rinse against the skin, the gentle pressure of fingers shaping brows, the soft friction of cloth against teeth, all created a tactile experience that was soothing and mindful. These actions, performed slowly and with attention, contributed to a sense of calm, a quiet engagement with one's body and presence. They were practices that balanced aesthetics with well-being, producing not only visual results but also a deep, internal sense of order, attentiveness, and gentle discipline. Even small imperfections were addressed with patience and care. A stray hair on the brow, a slight dullness in the eyes, or a minor blemish on a tooth could be remedied with simple, deliberate techniques. Herbal washes, gentle shaping, and careful cleaning were employed to restore harmony and balance to the appearance. Each adjustment was an act of mindfulness, a slow, attentive engagement with the self, reinforcing both confidence and composure. In this way, the pursuit of beauty was inseparable from the cultivation of patience, attention, and gentle presence, producing results that extended beyond mere visual effect into the realm of thoughtful, reflective experience. The cultural significance of eyes, eyebrows, and teeth also extended into storytelling, literature, and art. Illuminated manuscripts, paintings, and tapestries often depicted individuals with clear, bright eyes, carefully shaped brows, and well-maintained teeth, reinforcing the ideals of refinement, virtue, and social awareness. Observing these depictions provides insight into the medieval understanding of beauty as a combination of health, attentiveness, and aesthetic presentation. The subtle interplay between features, the careful attention to detail, and the ritualized practices that supported them all contributed to a cohesive vision of appearance that was both aspirational and attainable, measured by patience, care, and mindfulness. In the privacy of one's chamber, the act of attending to these features could also become deeply personal and reflective. As the eyes were cleansed, brows shaped, and teeth tended, individuals engaged in quiet observation, noting changes in health, appearance, and well-being. These moments offered opportunities for self-reflection, calm attentiveness, and gentle awareness, transforming the act of grooming into a meditative practice. The connection between inner and outer self, between health, behavior, and aesthetic presentation, was a subtle but powerful aspect of medieval beauty ideals. Socially, the presentation of these features influenced perception and interaction. Bright, clear eyes suggested engagement and attentiveness. Well-shaped eyebrows framed expression and conveyed emotion. Clean, healthy teeth contributed to confidence and ease in conversation. In gatherings, whether formal or informal, these details communicated refinement, composure, and social understanding, often silently, yet with clarity and subtlety. The care given to these features reflected both personal discipline and awareness of societal expectations, reinforcing the intertwined nature of beauty, behavior, and cultural values. In conclusion, The medieval attention to eyes, eyebrows, and teeth exemplifies the care, patience, and subtle artistry that permeated personal grooming practices. Bright, clear eyes conveyed vitality and awareness. Carefully shaped eyebrows framed expression and signaled refinement. Clean, well-maintained teeth reflected health, discipline, and self-respect. These practices were performed with deliberate care, often in quiet, meditative moments, transforming routine grooming into a gentle, immersive experience that nurtured both appearance and inner calm. By understanding these practices, we gain insight not only into historical standards of beauty, but into the slow, mindful rhythms of daily life that allowed individuals to cultivate presence, attentiveness, and refinement in every gesture and detail. As you listen and imagine, picture the gentle rituals unfolding in softly lit chambers, the faint aroma of herbs in the air, the careful strokes of fingers shaping brows, the slow rinse of water over eyes, the delicate polishing of teeth. Feel the soft textures, the subtle fragrances, the quiet rhythm of patient care, and let these images guide your mind into a calm, reflective state. Allow the care of eyes, eyebrows, and teeth to envelop you like a soft, protective veil, a gentle meditation on beauty, presence, and quiet refinement. In this way, the practices of medieval grooming become not just history, but a soothing, immersive journey, guiding your thoughts slowly and peacefully through the delicate artistry of the past. Tonight, let us turn our attention to the garments, accessories, and jewelry that shaped the medieval understanding of beauty. In the Middle Ages, clothing was far more than protection from the elements. It was a carefully considered language, a medium through which individuals communicated status, virtue, taste, and social belonging. Imagine a softly lit chamber or a quiet village street where people move with deliberation, attending to the textures of fabric, the placement of clasps, and the subtle glint of adornments. Each garment, each ribbon, each ring was chosen with care, a reflection of culture, aesthetics, and the personal identity of its wearer. The fabrics themselves were fundamental to the expression of beauty and refinement. Silks, velvets, and finely woven wools were prized for their softness, sheen, and ability to drape gracefully across the body. These materials were often imported, highly costly, and therefore symbols of wealth and access. A noblewoman's gown might flow in gentle folds, catching candlelight to reveal the subtle interplay of color and texture, while the sleeves, carefully tailored, might fall in long, graceful lines that suggested both elegance and poise. Even within simpler communities, careful attention was paid to the choice of fabrics available, using natural fibers, hand-woven textures, and subtle dyes to create garments that reflected care, skill, and aesthetic sensibility. Clothing, in this sense, became an extension of self, a soft, tactile expression of social ideals and personal refinement. Color carried particular significance in medieval clothing. Deep, rich hues, emerald green, crimson red, sapphire blue, were associated with status, wealth, and sometimes even moral or spiritual attributes. The process of dyeing fabrics was complex, requiring patience, knowledge, and access to rare natural materials. Indigo, madder root, and cochineal produced vibrant blues, reds, and purples, each tone reflecting both aesthetic preference and cultural meaning. Lighter shades, soft creams, and muted pastels suggested refinement, subtlety, and understated elegance. In this way, the choice of color was not merely decorative. It was symbolic, communicating information about social position, cultural literacy, and personal taste to those with the eyes to observe and the knowledge to interpret. The cut and structure of garments were also carefully considered. Dresses, tunics, and robes were tailored to emphasize graceful lines, the natural flow of the body, and the delicate articulation of posture and movement. Sleeves might be long and trailing, catching the breeze in a quiet display of elegance, or fitted and simple, suggesting practicality and composure. Necklines were designed to balance modesty with the subtle display of refinement, often framed with lace, embroidery, or delicate pleating. Every fold, every stitch was intentional, producing garments that were simultaneously practical, beautiful, and imbued with meaning. The careful crafting of clothing became a ritual of mindfulness, a slow and deliberate process that connected maker and wearer to the aesthetic ideals of their world. Accessories enhanced and completed the ensemble. Belts, sashes, ribbons, and cloaks added layers of texture, color, and symbolism. A sash might be embroidered with gold thread, its delicate patterns catching the light and signaling refinement. A belt could be adorned with small ornaments or clasps, serving both functional and decorative purposes. Cloaks, flowing and softly weighted, added a sense of quiet dignity to the wearer's movement, framing the body and the garments beneath. In each accessory, there was an interplay of visual impact and subtle social signaling, a careful balance between personal taste and the expectations of observers. These details, though often small, carried meaning and required the same patience and attention as hair care or skin treatment, reminding us that beauty in the Middle Ages was holistic, deliberate, and meditative. Jewelry occupied a particularly important role in expressing beauty, status, and identity. Rings, brooches, necklaces, and earrings were chosen with great care, often incorporating precious metals, stones, and intricate craftsmanship. The placement of jewelry complemented clothing, accentuated gestures, and drew attention to specific parts of the body, such as hands, neckline, or ears. Each piece carried meaning. A ring could symbolize family allegiance, marital status, or personal achievement. A necklace might indicate piety, wealth, or fashion awareness. Even the smallest ornament contributed to a cohesive presentation, transforming movement and posture into a subtle display of refinement and cultural literacy. The act of dressing itself was often a slow, deliberate process, particularly for the wealthy. Layers were arranged thoughtfully, ensuring that fabric, accessory, and adornment fell exactly as intended. Gowns and robes were carefully fastened with clasps, laces tied precisely, and cloaks draped with gentle folds that suggested both elegance and composure. The process involved both physical and mental attention, as the wearer considered balance, symmetry, and the overall visual effect. The act of dressing became a quiet ritual, a meditative engagement with fabric, color, and adornment, producing an experience that was both calming and deeply immersive. In this way, beauty was experienced not only visually but sensorially, through the tactile pleasure of soft fabrics, the subtle weight of jewelry, and the gentle movement of flowing garments. Cultural norms also guided choices in clothing and adornment. Modesty, influenced by religious and moral expectations, shaped the cut, coverage, and layering of garments. Necklines, sleeves, and hemlines were often designed to strike a balance between elegance and propriety, creating an appearance that was graceful without extravagance. Simultaneously, display of wealth and refinement was encouraged in specific contexts, particularly within noble circles where clothing and jewelry communicated social hierarchy, taste, and access to rare materials. This delicate balance between modesty and display created a dynamic and nuanced approach to personal presentation, where every choice, fabric, cut, accessory, or ornament was infused with both aesthetic and cultural significance. The rhythm of movement was integral to the presentation of clothing. A gently swaying sleeve, a flowing cloak, or the subtle shimmer of a pendant in motion added depth to the visual impression. Individuals learned to move with awareness, understanding how posture, gait, and gesture interacted with fabric and adornment to create a complete aesthetic experience. Walking through a hall, ascending a staircase, or greeting a guest became opportunities to display both elegance and composure, a quiet choreography that communicated refinement and attentiveness. In this way, clothing and jewelry were not static. They were animated by presence, producing a soft, flowing performance of beauty in everyday life. Textural contrasts were another important aspect. Smooth silk against rougher wool, the sheen of velvet against the soft mat of linen, and the glint of metal against fabric all contributed to a tactile and visual harmony. Accessories and jewelry enhanced this interplay, introducing subtle points of light and weight that complemented the rhythm of movement and the contours of the body. The careful orchestration of texture, color, and ornamentation created a holistic sensory experience, one that was calming, immersive, and subtly mesmerizing. Attention to these details required patience, observation, and care, transforming dressing into an act of gentle artistry and meditative reflection. For men, clothing also carried layers of meaning. Tunics, doublets, hose, and cloaks were chosen for both practicality and social signaling. Fine fabrics, intricate embroidery, and carefully selected accessories indicated status and taste, while simple materials reflected modesty, profession, or practicality. Men's attire was often tailored to suggest stature, composure, and confidence, creating an impression that was both visual and symbolic. Belts, pouches, hats, and gloves added refinement and subtlety, framing gestures and movement and complementing the overall aesthetic. In all cases, the choice and arrangement of clothing and accessories was deliberate, slow, and thoughtful, transforming the act of dressing into a quiet ritual of attentiveness and care. Adornment extended to seasonal and ceremonial variation. Festival days, weddings, religious holidays, and courtly gatherings demanded special attention to both garments and jewelry. Fabrics might be richer, colors deeper, and accessories more elaborate, creating a heightened sense of visual impact. The process of preparation was deliberate and reflective, involving careful layering, adjustment, and inspection. These occasions were opportunities to fully engage with aesthetic ideals, presenting oneself in alignment with cultural expectations, social hierarchy, and personal taste. Even the smallest gestures, a clasp adjusted, a ribbon straightened, a pendant centered, were infused with intentionality, producing a subtle, harmonious effect that communicated refinement, mindfulness, and calm composure. The sensory dimensions of clothing, accessories, and jewelry were profound. The softness of silk or velvet, the gentle weight of a cloak, the smooth coolness of a metal clasp, the faint scent of fabrics treated with herbs or oils, all contributed to a multi-sensory experience that was simultaneously calming and aesthetically pleasing. The tactile engagement with materials, combined with visual harmony and subtle symbolism, created a quiet, immersive meditation on presence, beauty, and attentiveness. Dressing became not only a necessity or social expectation, but a mindful, reflective experience, grounding the individual in rhythm, sensation, and awareness. Even modest households engaged in similar attentiveness, though with simpler means. Hand-woven fabrics, subtle dyes, and carefully arranged garments reflected care and skill, producing a sense of refinement and elegance appropriate to resources. Accessories might include simple ribbons, woven belts, or small decorative clasps chosen thoughtfully to complement the overall ensemble. In every case, attention to detail, patience in preparation, and mindfulness of appearance transformed even modest attire into an expression of care, identity, and alignment with cultural ideals. The principles of beauty were accessible not only through wealth, but through deliberate attention, gentle artistry, and reflective practice. The interplay of garments, accessories, and jewelry created an overall aesthetic that was deeply immersive and subtly expressive. A flowing gown, carefully draped cloak, and delicate necklace together produced. The interplay of garments, accessories, and jewelry created an overall aesthetic that was deeply immersive and subtly expressive. A flowing gown, carefully draped cloak, and delicate necklace together produced a rhythm of textures, colors, and weight that moved in harmony with the body. The way fabric swayed, the soft glint of a brooch catching candlelight, the gentle reflection of a gemstone, all contributed to a quiet, meditative display. The act of observing oneself in a mirror or adjusting a sleeve or sash became a reflective practice, engaging not only the eyes, but also the mind and the hands. Dressing was thus both practical and contemplative, a slow ritual that linked the external presentation of beauty with internal mindfulness and composure. Seasonal changes played a significant role in determining the choice of garments and adornments. Winter demanded heavier wools, layered tunics and cloaks lined with fur to provide warmth, while still allowing for elegance and subtle display of wealth. Summer brought lighter linens and silks, often dyed in brighter or softer hues, with flowing sleeves and open necklines to allow comfort while maintaining propriety. Accessories also shifted with the seasons: gloves and hats in winter, ribbons, sashes, and delicate jewelry in spring and summer. Even the smallest details, like the texture of a fabric against the skin or the weight of a clasp, were adjusted according to climate and comfort, demonstrating the thoughtful interplay between beauty, utility, and attentiveness to the environment. Regional differences in clothing and adornment added further richness to medieval style. In Northern Europe, heavier fabrics and darker hues were common, reflecting the colder climate and available dyes, while southern regions favored lighter materials, warmer colors, and intricate embroidery influenced by trade and cultural exchange. Styles could also indicate local traditions, guild affiliations, or family heritage, subtly communicating identity through clothing. Travelers moving from one region to another might adapt their attire to local norms while maintaining personal preferences, creating a gentle negotiation between individual expression and cultural expectation. This variability demonstrates that beauty was both universal and highly contextual, shaped by climate, geography, and the subtle language of social norms. Rituals of dressing were carefully observed, especially among the nobility. Gown upon gown, layer upon layer, was added with deliberation. A chemise, undergarment, or shift provided a soft foundation. Over it, a gown of rich fabric flowed, its folds arranged to move gracefully with the body. A cloak or mantle might be draped with attention to weight, fall, and symmetry. Belts and sashes cinched or accentuated the waist. Ribbons, clasps, and jewels punctuated the ensemble with delicate highlights. The process was slow, deliberate, and reflective, requiring patience, care, and an understanding of both aesthetic principles and social expectations. Dressing became a practice of mindfulness, a quiet meditation in which each gesture, each adjustment, contributed to both visual harmony and internal composure. The symbolic meanings of accessories and jewelry were layered and nuanced. Rings often signaled marital status, family ties, or alliances, while brooches might indicate religious devotion or social rank. Necklaces, pendants, and chains were chosen to complement clothing, drawing attention to the neckline, chest, or hands in subtle, refined ways. Even small details, such as a ribbon tied just so, or a clasp aligned perfectly, carried significance, demonstrating attention, refinement, and awareness of social norms. The combination of symbolism and aesthetic effect created a rich, multisensory experience where visual impact, touch, and cultural meaning coalesced into a quiet display of identity and refinement. Clothing also influenced posture, movement, and presence. The weight of layered fabrics encouraged upright carriage, while the drape of a gown or cloak affected the rhythm of walking or turning. Sleeves that fell long and trailing required careful attention to gestures, producing a deliberate, graceful interaction with the space and people around. Jewelry added subtle weight and feedback to movement, the gentle jingle of small chains or the soft glint of a pendant guiding the awareness of the wearer. In this way, dressing became an embodied practice, intertwining aesthetic, physical, and social dimensions. Every movement, from walking across a hall to lifting a hand in greeting, carried both visual and symbolic significance, a choreography of refinement and mindful presence. Even the smallest, Seemingly mundane choices reflected broader ideals of beauty and decorum. The choice of a particular clasp, the placement of a ribbon, the alignment of a belt, all required attention, patience, and intention. Such choices reinforced social awareness and personal discipline, creating an environment in which beauty was both a personal expression and a shared cultural language. Attentiveness to these details encouraged mindfulness, slow observation, and a gentle, reflective rhythm to daily life. The act of dressing and adorning oneself was thus a meditative practice, blending aesthetic pleasure with quiet internal calm. Beyond personal adornment, clothing and jewelry were central to communal and ceremonial occasions. Festivals, religious observances, weddings, and court gatherings required elevated attention to appearance. Garments were chosen for color, texture, and symbolic meaning. Accessories were arranged to complement or enhance the overall ensemble. Preparation for these events often involved attendants, family members, or close friends, creating a shared ritual of mindfulness and care. Layers were added slowly, clasps adjusted, ribbons and jewels positioned with precision, producing an experience that was both social and meditative. In these moments, beauty was a collective practice, linking personal presence with shared cultural ideals. The sensory richness of clothing, accessories, and jewelry contributed to the immersive experience of beauty. The soft brush of velvet against the skin, the gentle weight of a cloak or chain, the subtle fragrance of fabrics infused with herbs, all created a tactile and olfactory dimension that complemented visual appearance. The rustle of layers in movement, the soft shimmer of metals or jewels catching light, and the warmth or coolness of fabrics against the body produced a slow, sensory rhythm encouraging mindfulness and internal calm. Dressing in this way became a full-bodied meditation, engaging sight, touch, and even smell in a harmonious experience of aesthetic and emotional presence. Practical considerations were always woven into aesthetic choices. Garments were designed for comfort, mobility, and protection, with layers offering warmth, coverage, and durability. Jewelry, while decorative, was also selected for security and ease of wear, ensuring that adornment did not hinder movement or daily tasks. Even elaborate clothing was tailored to accommodate the rhythms of daily life, whether walking through streets, attending gatherings, or performing household or professional duties. This careful attention to both beauty and function reflects a nuanced understanding of the interconnectedness of aesthetics, comfort, and practical life. In simpler households, the principles of layered care, attention to texture, and mindful adornment were expressed through available materials and skill. Hand-woven fabrics, subtle embroidery, and carefully arranged belts or ribbons created elegance appropriate to resources. Even without precious metals or gemstones, thoughtful placement of accessories and careful tailoring of garments produced a harmonious visual effect. Attention, patience, and reflection remained central, demonstrating that beauty was accessible not only through wealth, but through mindfulness, skill, and deliberate care. The social and symbolic dimensions of clothing extended beyond individual adornment. Garments communicated age, marital status, profession, and social rank. Colors, textures, and cuts were interpreted by observers, creating a visual language that was understood within communities. Jewelry amplified these signals, offering subtle cues about alliances, achievements, or devotion. Individuals learned to read and interpret these signals, and to select their own attire in alignment with social expectations and personal taste. In this way, clothing, accessories, and jewelry were not only aesthetic choices but tools of social navigation, shaping perception, interaction, and identity. Finally, the care and attention given to clothing and adornment reflect a broader medieval philosophy. Beauty is deliberate, holistic, and meditative. The slow layering of fabrics, the precise placement of accessories, the reflective adjustment of jewelry, and the mindful observation of texture, color, and movement all contribute to a cultivated presence that balances aesthetics, comfort, and social awareness. In the quiet repetition of these acts, individuals engaged not only with appearance, but with rhythm, attention, and care, transforming the simple act of dressing into a gentle, immersive meditation. As you imagine these garments, accessories and jewels, picture the soft flow of a gown in morning light, the gentle glint of a clasp catching the sun, the subtle scent of herbs woven into fabrics, and the quiet rustle of layers as one moves with awareness. Feel the weight of a necklace or belt, the texture of silk or velvet against skin, the soft reflection of gems and metals in candlelight. Let each detail, each small adjustment, guide your mind into calm reflection, slowing your breathing and easing tension. In this way, the beauty of medieval clothing becomes not only history, but a soothing journey through texture, color, and deliberate presence, a gentle meditation that carries both visual richness and quiet internal calm. In conclusion, medieval clothing, accessories, and jewelry were more than decoration. They were an intricate language of identity, social awareness, and aesthetic refinement. Fabrics, colors, and textures combined with jewelry and adornments to create a harmonious, holistic impression of elegance. The slow, deliberate practices of dressing, layering, and accessorizing cultivated patience, attentiveness, and mindfulness. Every choice, every adjustment was a meditation on beauty, presence, and care, producing an immersive experience that connected body, mind, and social context. Tonight, as you imagine these rituals unfolding in softly lit chambers and quiet streets, allow yourself to drift gently through the rhythms, textures, and gentle shimmer of a world shaped by care, patience, and the quiet art of adornment. Let the soft sway of gowns, the delicate sparkle of jewelry, and the gentle weight of fabric guide you into relaxation, reflection, and calm, embracing the timeless elegance of medieval life. Tonight, we turn our attention to one of the most delicate and enchanting aspects of medieval beauty: fragrances, cosmetics, and perfumes. In the Middle Ages, the art of scent and subtle enhancement of appearance was as much about ritual, refinement, and cultural expression as it was about personal hygiene. Imagine, if you will, a quiet chamber filled with the soft glow of morning light filtering through lattice windows. The air carries the faint, comforting aroma of dried herbs, flowers, and oils. At a small table, a gentle array of vials, powders, and scented waters awaits careful use, each chosen for its fragrance, its effect, and the quiet elegance it lends to daily life. These practices, though subtle, were immersive, meditative, and profoundly connected to notions of beauty, virtue, and social presence. Fragrances were considered essential to personal charm and refinement. In a time before modern deodorants, perfumes and scented waters were applied to mask the natural odors of the body, which could be intensified by long days, heavy fabrics, or warm interiors. Yet their purpose extended beyond mere practicality. Scents were thought to enhance allure, soothe the mind, and reflect social sophistication. Rosewater, violet, lavender, and orange blossom were commonly used, infused into waters for washing, soft sprays for the skin, or added to powders and creams. Imagine dipping a soft cloth into a vial of rosewater, then lightly brushing it over wrists, neck, or temples, the aroma unfolding gently into the air, leaving a quiet impression of elegance and thoughtfulness. Each application was slow, deliberate, and calming, transforming a practical task into a gentle, meditative ritual. Cosmetics, though subtle by modern standards, played a carefully regulated role in medieval beauty. Pale skin was considered desirable, a sign of wealth, refinement, and avoidance of labor in the sun. To achieve this, powders made from finely ground chalk, lead-based compounds, or naturally light clays were applied softly to the face, evening out complexion and creating a gentle radiance. Lip color, when used, was delicate and understated, often drawn from natural plant pigments like crushed berries or saffron-infused oils. Blush could be derived from crushed rose petals or powdered minerals, applied sparingly to highlight the cheeks. Every cosmetic application was slow, precise, and intended to harmonize with natural features rather than mask them. The act of applying these powders and pigments became a quiet meditation, a moment of reflection and care, encouraging patience and awareness of the body and mind. Perfumes and scented oils were also used as part of bathing rituals. Although daily bathing was less common than in later centuries, attention to cleanliness and scent remained culturally significant. Water infused with herbs such as rosemary, lavender, or mint was used for washing hands, face, and occasionally the entire body, leaving a lingering fragrance that was both refreshing and socially appealing. Oils were applied to moisturize and soften the skin, sometimes scented with subtle blends of rose, jasmine, or sandalwood. The ritual of bathing and scenting the body created a calm, sensory-rich experience, connecting touch, smell, and awareness in a deliberate and soothing way. The process itself became meditative, a quiet immersion into self-care, rhythm, and reflection. Eyes were subtly enhanced with natural pigments. Kohl, derived from minerals such as galena, could be applied along the lash line to define the shape of the eye, emphasizing depth and clarity. This practice was delicate and slow, requiring steady hands and gentle attention to symmetry and proportion. Eyebrows, similarly, could be darkened slightly with natural substances, emphasizing expression and framing the eyes with quiet elegance. These subtle enhancements were designed to highlight natural features, producing an effect that was refined, graceful, and harmonious. In every brushstroke or line, there was mindfulness, patience, and a gentle connection to cultural ideals of beauty. Fragrance extended to clothing, hair, and the environment, creating a holistic approach to sensory refinement. Herbs, flowers, and lightly scented oils were often sewn into garments, tucked into braids, or placed in small sachets within chests and wardrobes. Imagine the soft scent of lavender drifting from a belt, the gentle aroma of rosemary entwined in hair, or the faint perfume of rosewater clinging to the folds of a gown. These elements were not overpowering, but subtle, creating layers of fragrance that enhanced presence and perception without overwhelming the senses. The careful orchestration of scent, movement, and texture was a quiet art, transforming everyday life into a slow, immersive meditation of refinement and sensory awareness. In addition to personal adornment, perfumes and scented oils were used to signify social and ceremonial occasions. Weddings, festivals, and religious gatherings often demanded heightened attention to fragrance, with more elaborate blends applied to body, clothing, or hair. The selection of scents could signal wealth, taste, and cultural literacy, reflecting both the skill of the maker and the refinement of the wearer. Imagine a chamber filled with the soft scent of rose, violet, and orange blossom, each note unfolding slowly as attendants assist in dressing, arranging hair, or applying gentle powders. These moments of preparation were immersive and reflective, producing a gentle, meditative rhythm that combined sensory pleasure with cultural expression. The preparation and blending of fragrances was itself a slow, thoughtful practice. Oils, flower petals, herbs, and minerals were carefully combined, often requiring hours of infusion, pressing, or distillation. The resulting perfumes were stored in delicate vials, sometimes embellished with fine metalwork or carved wood, adding an additional visual dimension to the sensory experience. When applied, the perfume released its subtle aroma gradually, creating a soft, lingering effect that complemented appearance, movement, and presence. In this process, patience and attention to detail were paramount, turning the creation and use of fragrance into an art form and a meditative engagement with the senses. Cosmetics were often intertwined with medicinal knowledge. Herbal extracts used to brighten complexion, soften skin, or enhance lips were selected not only for their aesthetic effect, but for their gentle care of the body. Rose, chamomile, and calendula were used to soothe irritation, nourish delicate skin, and create a healthy, subtle radiance. This connection between beauty and wellness reflects a holistic approach in which appearance, health, and sensory pleasure were inseparable. The slow, deliberate application of these preparations encouraged reflection, attentiveness, and a gentle rhythm that harmonized inner and outer presence. Scent and cosmetics were also closely linked to social and cultural ideals. Overly bright or artificial appearance was often discouraged, while subtle enhancement, careful grooming, and delicate fragrance were admired. Beauty was understood as a balance between refinement and naturalness, a slow cultivation of grace and composure rather than bold display. Each application of powder, oil, or perfume was an exercise in mindfulness, a quiet, deliberate act that connected the individual to broader cultural values, social perception, and internal calm. In these routines, beauty became a reflective practice, a gentle meditation on presence, elegance, and harmony. Even modest households engaged in similar practices, albeit with simpler materials. Dried herbs, flower petals, and natural oils provided accessible fragrances. Ground clays and plant pigments offered gentle cosmetic enhancement. Attention to subtle scent, complexion, and refinement allowed individuals to participate in the broader cultural ideals of beauty, demonstrating that careful presence and mindful grooming were not limited to wealth. In these spaces, the slow, deliberate preparation of self remained a meditative practice, linking the body, mind, and environment in quiet reflection and gentle sensory awareness. The meditative quality of these routines extended into daily life. Applying a few drops of scented water to the wrists, dusting a gentle powder across the cheeks, or blending oils into hair created moments of calm attentiveness, a pause in the rhythm of activity. The tactile, olfactory, and visual engagement provided a soothing focus for the mind, a gentle slowing of time as attention turned to subtle sensory experiences. These practices transformed routine grooming into a form of quiet contemplation, offering both aesthetic pleasure and internal calm, a harmonious balance of body, mind, and social presence. Perfumes and cosmetics also carried symbolic weight. Certain fragrances were associated with love, purity, or piety. Specific colors or applications of powder could signal status or cultural knowledge. Subtle application allowed for nuanced communication without words, a quiet language of refinement and awareness understood by those attuned to its signals. In this way, the careful selection and use of scents and cosmetics was both a personal ritual and a social performance, a slow, reflective practice that cultivated both presence and perception. In conclusion, fragrances, cosmetics, and perfumes in the medieval world were far more than adornment. They were immersive, meditative practices that engaged the senses, reflected cultural ideals, and enhanced both personal presence and social perception. The careful blending of scents, the gentle application of powders and oils, and the reflective attention to subtle enhancement created a harmonious, slow rhythm of self-care. Through these practices, beauty became a sensory journey, a quiet meditation, and a gentle cultivation of elegance, refinement, and internal calm. As you imagine the soft scent of rose water, the delicate brush of powder, and the gentle infusion of oils, allow yourself to drift slowly into the sensory richness of medieval life, letting the quiet rhythms, textures, and aromas guide you into reflection, relaxation, and calm, embracing the timeless art of subtle beauty. Tonight, we turn our attention to the quiet, restorative rituals of bathing and personal hygiene in the medieval world. Though often imagined as distant, unfamiliar practices, these routines were central to daily life, health, and the cultivation of beauty. Picture a softly lit chamber, the faint scent of herbs drifting in the air, a wooden tub filled with warm water, and gentle sunlight reflecting from latticed windows. In this serene setting, the slow, deliberate care of the body becomes both practical and meditative, a gentle ritual of attentiveness, presence, and calm. Bathing in the medieval period was not simply about cleanliness, but about rhythm, ritual, and sensory engagement. Water was drawn carefully, heated gradually over fires or braziers, and infused with herbs to soothe, cleanse, and scent the skin. Chamomile, rosemary, lavender, and mint were common companions in the bath, their subtle aromas releasing a quiet calm that embraced the bather. Each step, from preparing the water to immersing oneself, was deliberate, slow, and attentive. The warmth of the water, the gentle touch of hands or cloth against the skin, and the soft scent of herbs created an immersive sensory experience, turning a simple act into a meditative journey. In noble households, bathing was often a ceremonial practice, involving attendants, delicate linens, and fragrant additions. A bath might be prepared hours in advance, the water carefully heated and infused with oils, petals, and aromatic herbs. The bather would remove layers of clothing slowly, taking care not to disturb the careful folds or adornments, and enter the bath with awareness, feeling the warmth envelop the body. Gentle scrubbing with soft cloths, sometimes infused with mild herbal powders, removed impurities while maintaining softness and health. Each movement was unhurried, deliberate, and reflective, creating an experience that harmonized body, mind, and scent. Even in modest homes, attention to bathing was carefully observed, though adapted to available resources. Simple basins of water, heated stones, and dried herbs allowed individuals to engage in slow, mindful cleansing. A cloth infused with lavender or rosewater might be used to gently wash the face or hands, producing a subtle fragrance and a quiet, reflective experience. This accessibility demonstrates that bathing was not only a practice of luxury, but a ritual of attentiveness, self-care, and presence. The rhythms of preparing, washing, and drying became slow, meditative acts, connecting the individual to the body, senses, and the passage of time. Soap, while available in some regions, was often handmade from animal fats, ashes, or plant oils. Its use was carefully measured, ensuring gentle cleansing without harshness. In many households, herbal infusions and powders complemented or replaced soap, maintaining hygiene while producing fragrance and softness. The tactile sensation of water, cloth, and gentle lather was calming, encouraging mindfulness and reflection. In these simple rituals, the act of cleansing became a form of meditation, a deliberate engagement with both sensory experience and internal calm. Hair was a significant focus of medieval bathing rituals. Long hair was often washed separately, combed slowly to remove tangles, and treated with scented oils or rinses made from herbs. Chamomile, rosemary, and lavender might be steeped in water to create fragrant rinses, softening hair and leaving a subtle scent. Combing was deliberate and rhythmic, each stroke untangling strands and producing gentle tactile pleasure. Braiding, twisting, or coiling hair required patience and careful attention, creating shapes that framed the face and complemented clothing and accessories. In this way, hair care became intertwined with bathing, producing a holistic ritual that nurtured both appearance and serenity. Feet and hands were treated with equal care. Warm, infused water softened skin, allowing gentle cleaning and exfoliation. Oils were applied to maintain suppleness, sometimes lightly scented to extend fragrance throughout the day. Nails were trimmed and smoothed, ensuring that even small details reflected attentiveness and care. This slow, methodical attention to extremities reinforced the principle that beauty was holistic, emerging from deliberate and patient engagement with every part of the body. Each small act, washing a hand, smoothing a nail, massaging an oil, was both practical and meditative, a gentle practice of presence and refinement. The use of scented powders and herbs extended beyond the bath itself, Dried petals or ground herbs were sometimes sprinkled on the floor, over linens, or in chests to maintain freshness and fragrance. This created a multisensory environment where the air, surfaces, and personal garments were infused with subtle aroma. Walking through these spaces, the bather was enveloped in scent, reinforcing a sense of calm, cleanliness, and refinement. This interplay between environment, body, and sensory experience reflects the medieval understanding that hygiene and beauty were inseparable, cultivated together through careful, slow attention. Bathing rituals were also connected to social and ceremonial practices. Before attending gatherings, festivals, or religious observances, individuals often engaged in extended cleansing routines, combining warm water, scented herbs, oils, and powders to present themselves in harmonious, refined states. The slow rhythm of preparation, the sensory richness of water, fragrance, and touch, and the deliberate arrangement of hair, clothing, and jewelry all contributed to a sense of presence, confidence, and composure. These rituals, though rooted in practical necessity, became immersive experiences of refinement, reflection, and meditative calm. Medicinal knowledge influenced bathing practices as well. Herbs were chosen not only for fragrance but for their perceived healing and protective properties. Rosemary was believed to invigorate, chamomile to soothe, lavender to calm, and mint to refresh. Baths infused with these herbs were not merely aesthetic, but connected to health, vitality, and internal balance. Gentle application of scented oils and powders further supported skin health and comfort. In this way, hygiene and beauty were intertwined with holistic wellness, creating a quiet ritual that nurtured both body and mind. Children and younger members of households were gradually introduced to these practices, learning the rhythms, techniques, and attentiveness required. The slow, deliberate washing of face, hands, and body, the careful combing of hair, and the soft application of herbs or oils became a form of early education in refinement, patience, and mindfulness. Over time, these routines embedded themselves into daily life, shaping a habitual awareness of the body, the senses, and the cultural ideals of beauty and hygiene. In this way, personal care became a lifelong practice, woven into the rhythms of medieval life. In addition to water and herbs, medieval baths sometimes included powders and clays. Finely ground chalk, fragrant soils, or plant-based powders were used to cleanse, exfoliate, or lightly scent the skin. These substances were applied slowly and gently, massaged with soft cloths or hands, producing a tactile rhythm that was both calming and purposeful. The combination of water, powder, and herbal infusion created a layered sensory experience, engaging touch, scent, and sight in a harmonious ritual. Each movement, each brush, each splash of water encouraged mindfulness, patience, and quiet reflection. The social dimensions of bathing were also notable. While private baths were common for reflection and calm, communal baths existed in towns, monasteries, and certain noble estates. These spaces were centers of social interaction, where conversation, observation, and subtle display of refinement occurred alongside hygiene. Attentiveness to appearance, movement, and scent remained central, even in communal contexts. The slow, deliberate pace of bathing encouraged both social composure and personal reflection, blending interaction with meditative care. Clothing and grooming often followed bathing, completing a holistic ritual of refinement. Soft linens and clean garments were donned slowly, layered carefully to complement both comfort and visual harmony. Hair was arranged, accessories positioned, and subtle powders or fragrances applied to extend the sensory experience of the bath into the day. Every action reinforced composure, attentiveness, and mindfulness, creating a seamless connection between personal hygiene, appearance, and social presence. In this way, medieval bathing was not only practical, but deeply immersive, nurturing both aesthetic and internal calm. Even in modest households, the rituals of cleansing and grooming produce similar rhythms of care. Basins of warm water, simple herbs, and carefully folded linens allowed individuals to engage in slow, deliberate routines. The act of washing, applying oils, and arranging hair created both sensory pleasure and reflective presence. These practices reveal that the medieval understanding of beauty was deeply connected to attentiveness, rhythm, and mindful engagement, rather than merely wealth or access to luxury. Patience, care, and reflection were at the heart of personal grooming, turning everyday routines into immersive, meditative experiences. In conclusion, medieval bathing and hygiene rituals exemplify the integration of practicality, beauty, and mindful presence. Water, herbs, oils, powders, and careful attention to hair, hands, and feet combined to produce an immersive, multisensory experience that nurtured body and mind alike. Rituals were slow, deliberate, and reflective, connecting hygiene with aesthetic refinement, social awareness, and internal calm. The gentle rhythm of bathing, the tactile engagement with water and fabric, and the subtle fragrance of herbs all contributed to a holistic understanding of beauty and wellness. As you imagine these rituals, picture the soft steam rising from a wooden tub, the delicate scent of lavender or rosemary infusing the air, the warmth of water against skin, and the rhythmic motion of hands gently cleansing, combing, and massaging. Feel the texture of soft cloths, the subtle pressure of oils and powders, and the quiet reflection that accompanies these slow, deliberate actions. Allow the calm rhythm of medieval bathing to guide your thoughts, slowing your breath, easing tension, and carrying you gently into relaxation. In this way, the simple act of cleansing becomes a soothing meditation, an immersive journey into sensory calm, attentiveness, and timeless beauty. Tonight, we turn our attention to one of the most visible and intricate expressions of medieval beauty: hairstyles and hair care. In the medieval world, hair was more than simply a feature of the body. It was a living canvas, a symbol of social status, personal refinement, and cultural ideals. Imagine a quiet chamber bathed in soft morning light, a gentle breeze drifting through an open window, and the faint scent of herbs and oils lingering in the air. A comb, a ribbon, a scented oil, and a small wooden mirror lie on a table, ready for the slow, deliberate ritual of grooming and styling. Each strand of hair becomes part of a narrative, reflecting patience, care, and the quiet artistry of medieval aesthetics. Hair care was approached with meticulous attention. Combing and brushing were not rushed. They were slow, rhythmic motions that detangled, aligned, and smoothed each strand. Combs were often made of wood, horn, or ivory, and could be simple or intricately carved. Brushing was complemented with oils infused with herbs, flowers, or subtle perfumes, applied to nourish the hair, maintain shine, and gently scent it. Chamomile, lavender, rosemary, and rose were common companions, creating a soft, calming fragrance that lingered in the hair. These oils were applied sparingly, rubbed into the scalp and along strands, producing a tactile engagement that was both soothing and meditative. Each motion of combing and oiling connected the individual to rhythm, presence, and sensory awareness. Length and texture of hair played a crucial role in determining style. Long hair was highly prized, especially among noble women, as a symbol of vitality, patience, and refinement. Gentle waves or straightened locks were carefully arranged with subtle attention to flow and movement. Shorter hair was often kept neat, tidy, and shaped to frame the face with elegance. Hair was washed using infused waters or herbal rinses, slowly massaged into the scalp, and then air-dried or carefully arranged. Every step required patience, mindfulness, and a gentle touch, transforming hair care into an immersive ritual of presence and calm. Braiding was a central feature of medieval hairstyles, both for women and men. Complex plaits and intertwined braids were slow to create, requiring focus, dexterity, and intentionality. Braids could be simple, cascading down the back, or elaborately woven into geometric patterns that suggested status, wealth, or fashion awareness. Ribbons, cords, and delicate threads of gold or silver were often woven into braids, adding subtle shimmer and texture. The process of braiding was rhythmic, almost hypnotic, each twist and weave producing both visual beauty and tactile satisfaction. These slow, deliberate actions encouraged mindfulness, patience, and quiet reflection, creating an intimate connection between the hands, mind, and hair. Hair coverings and accessories further enhanced beauty and communicated cultural or social signals. Veils, wimples, circlets, and decorative nets framed the face, accentuated hairstyles, and maintained modesty in alignment with societal norms. Circlets or jeweled pins could indicate wealth or status, while ribbons and combs added delicate points of interest. These accessories required careful placement and adjustment, ensuring symmetry, stability, and subtle visual harmony. The process of arranging hair with coverings and ornaments was slow and thoughtful, transforming a daily grooming routine into an immersive practice of elegance, presence, and calm attention to detail. Cultural ideals shaped the presentation of hair. Pale, fine skin combined with carefully arranged hair created a visual balance, framing the face in a manner that emphasized composure and refinement. Loose tendrils or carefully pinned wisps softened the frame, producing a gentle movement and subtle expression. Hair was never left entirely unstyled in noble or refined circles. Even modest households sought to maintain neatness and a sense of order through simple braids, tied sections, or gentle smoothing. Every choice reflected a balance between practicality, aesthetic ideals, and cultural expectations, demonstrating that beauty was both intentional and contextually aware. Hair care extended beyond daily grooming into rituals for special occasions. Festivals, weddings, religious ceremonies, and court gatherings demanded heightened attention to styling. Hair might be braided into intricate patterns, woven with ribbons, or adorned with delicate ornaments. Oils and scented waters enhanced shine and fragrance, while careful arrangements harmonized with clothing, jewelry, and accessories. Preparation for such events was slow and deliberate, often involving attendants or family members, creating a shared, meditative experience that reinforced social bonds and internal composure. In this way, hair care was not merely aesthetic, but also social, ritualistic, and deeply immersive. The sensory experience of hair care was rich and multi-layered. The gentle tug of combs through strands, the soft touch of fingers arranging braids, the warm glide of scented oils across the scalp, and the subtle fragrance lingering in the air all contributed to an immersive rhythm. Hair care engaged the senses in a calming, reflective way, producing both tactile pleasure and olfactory satisfaction. In these slow, deliberate routines, beauty became a practice of mindfulness, linking the body, mind, and environment in quiet meditation. Each strand arranged, each braid woven, and each accessory positioned was an act of presence, care, and attentiveness. Men's hair, though often shorter, was treated with equal consideration. Tuned to social norms and personal preference, styles ranged from neatly trimmed hair to slightly longer, wavy locks arranged with care. Combs and oils were used to maintain texture and shine, and braids or tied sections were occasionally employed to reflect style, profession, or status. Beard grooming, when present, followed similar principles, with oils, careful trimming, and combing producing a harmonious, composed appearance. In this way, hair care was a universal aspect of medieval beauty, adapted to gender, social expectation, and personal preference. The preparation of scented oils and rinses for hair was itself an art form. Herbs and flowers were steeped in warm water, oils infused with subtle fragrances, and these blends applied with slow, deliberate care. The aroma of lavender, rose, or rosemary created a soft sensory backdrop, soothing the mind while enhancing appearance. This preparation reinforced the meditative quality of grooming, encouraging patience, attentiveness, and reflection. The ritual of creating, applying, and arranging fragrant oils became a slow, calming engagement with beauty, presence, and sensory awareness. Regional variations influenced hairstyle and hair care practices. In Northern Europe, heavier, more layered styles protected against cold climates, while southern regions favored lighter, flowing arrangements that complemented warmer weather and cultural aesthetics. Local traditions, familial lineage, and fashion trends subtly guided hairstyling, producing a diverse array of patterns, braids, and arrangements. Travelers or visitors often adapted their hair to local customs while incorporating personal preferences, creating a dynamic interplay between cultural norms and individual expression. Hair care also included subtle symbolic practices. Certain arrangements, colors, or adornments could signify age, marital status, or virtue. Braids, knots, and veils were read by observers as quiet signals of identity and propriety. Scented oils and subtle enhancements reinforced these messages, producing a holistic presentation that combined appearance, fragrance, and social literacy. In this way, medieval hair care was both aesthetic and communicative, producing a slow, immersive, and intentional practice of presence, elegance, and reflection. Even simple households engaged in mindful hair care, employing available herbs, combs, and oils to maintain neatness and subtle fragrance. Long or short, thick or fine, hair was cared for with attention, patience, and a gentle rhythm. Braiding, smoothing, and arranging strands produced a reflective, sensory-rich practice that reinforced composure, internal calm, and self-awareness. These routines, though less elaborate than those of the nobility, were no less meditative, demonstrating that beauty in the medieval world was accessible through care, attention, and slow, deliberate practice. In conclusion, medieval hairstyles and hair care were deeply immersive rituals, blending aesthetic refinement, cultural signaling, and meditative practice. The slow combing of strands, the careful weaving of braids, the thoughtful application of oils and scents, and the deliberate placement of accessories all contributed to a harmonious sensory experience. Hair became a living canvas, an expression of identity, and a medium for reflection, patience, and calm presence. Tonight, as you imagine the gentle rhythm of combing, braiding and oiling, the soft fragrance of herbs, and the delicate glint of ribbons or pins, allow yourself to drift slowly into the tactile, fragrant, and visual serenity of medieval grooming. Let the quiet repetition, gentle movements, and immersive attention guide your mind and body into relaxation, reflection, and a gentle, restorative calm, embracing the timeless artistry of hair as a meditative expression of beauty. Tonight, we turn our attention to the quiet, nourishing practices that linked diet, nutrition, and beauty in medieval life. In a time long before modern vitamins, supplements, or cosmetic products, what one ate was intimately connected to appearance, vitality, and overall well-being. Imagine a softly lit kitchen, the air fragrant with herbs, fresh bread, and simmering stews. Wooden bowls, carved spoons, and earthenware jugs are arranged on tables, while fresh fruits, vegetables, grains, and spices await gentle preparation. Each meal was an opportunity to care for the body, enhance natural beauty, and cultivate a quiet awareness of sustenance, rhythm, and the interconnectedness of life. Medieval dietary practices were deeply influenced by seasonality, geography, and social status. In northern regions, hearty grains, root vegetables, and preserved foods provided warmth and sustenance during long, cold winters. Southern regions offered an abundance of fresh fruits, vegetables, and lighter grains, complemented by olive oils and herbs. Social status determined the variety and richness of foods. The nobility enjoyed meats, exotic spices, and imported delicacies, while peasants relied more on locally grown grains, legumes, and seasonal produce. Yet across classes, careful attention was paid to the effects of food on the body, complexion, and overall vitality, reflecting a holistic understanding of diet as a foundation of beauty and health. The connection between food and appearance was a subtle, pervasive philosophy. Smooth skin, vibrant hair, and bright eyes were believed to reflect the quality of one's diet. Foods rich in natural oils, vitamins, and minerals were incorporated to maintain softness of skin and sheen of hair. Nuts, seeds, and legumes provided essential nutrients, while fresh fruits and vegetables offered subtle coloration and vitality. Herbs such as parsley, sage, and rosemary were not only aromatic but also believed to promote health and enhance natural beauty. The act of preparing and consuming these foods was deliberate, attentive, and mindful, creating a slow, reflective connection between nourishment and appearance. Grains were the backbone of the medieval diet, forming the basis of bread, porridge, and pastries. Wheat, barley, rye, and oats were milled into flour and transformed into nourishing foods that provided both energy and substance. The texture, coarseness, and preparation of grains were carefully considered, with finely milled flour reserved for special occasions or for the nobility, while coarser grains sustained peasants and workers. The slow kneading of dough, the rhythmic folding and shaping of bread, and the gentle warming of loaves in ovens or over fires created tactile, meditative experiences. Each step connected the maker to the cycle of nourishment, patience, and the quiet artistry of preparing sustenance for both body and soul. Vegetables and legumes were incorporated for their subtle contributions to vitality and complexion. Carrots, parsnips, cabbage, beans, and lentils were prepared simply or seasoned with herbs and oils, producing gentle flavors that complemented the main sustenance. The natural colors and textures of vegetables were appreciated, and their slow preparation, washing, slicing, boiling, and seasoning became a deliberate, reflective practice. Consuming these foods provided nourishment while supporting the subtle visual and sensory qualities of the body, aligning internal health with external presence. Fruits offered natural sweetness and vibrant pigments. Apples, pears, cherries, plums, and berries were eaten fresh, dried, or preserved, providing gentle energy and subtle coloration to the complexion. Fruits were often consumed slowly, appreciated for flavor, texture, and aroma, creating a meditative rhythm to eating. Their natural sugars and vitamins were considered beneficial not only for sustenance, but for enhancing the softness, tone, and glow of the skin. The gentle anticipation of slicing a ripe fruit, inhaling its aroma, and savoring its flavor transformed a simple act of eating into a moment of mindful nourishment and quiet reflection. Meat and fish, though reserved more for wealthier households, played an important role in medieval beauty and health. Chicken, beef, pork, and game were consumed carefully, prepared with herbs, slow cooking, and gentle seasoning. Fish, particularly in coastal regions or during religious fasts, provided protein and essential oils, contributing to vitality and complexion. The preparation of these proteins was deliberate, requiring attention to heat, seasoning, and timing. Each cut, each stir, each careful seasoning was a slow, mindful act, producing nourishment that supported strength, resilience, and a subtle, healthy appearance. Dairy products, including milk, cheese, and butter, provided richness and essential nutrients. Milk was used both in cooking and as a base for creams, while cheese offered concentrated protein and fats. Butter was incorporated into dishes for flavor and sustenance, sometimes infused with herbs or spices for subtle aroma. The slow churning of butter or the careful pressing of cheese created rhythmic, tactile experiences that connected hands, body, and mind to the production of nourishment. These rituals of preparation and consumption were not hurried. They were deliberate engagements with sustenance, patience, and sensory awareness, reinforcing the connection between diet and beauty. Spices, though often expensive and rare, were valued not only for flavor, but for their believed effects on the body and complexion. Cinnamon, saffron, cloves, and nutmeg were used sparingly, adding aroma, warmth, and visual appeal to dishes. The careful sprinkling of spice, the gentle grinding of seeds, and the mindful blending with herbs and other ingredients created a meditative culinary practice. The aroma of spices enhanced the sensory richness of meals, engaging sight, smell, and taste in harmony, while subtly reinforcing social distinction, cultural literacy, and awareness of refinement. Herbs played a dual role in nutrition and beauty. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme were used in cooking for flavor and aroma, while also believed to promote skin health, digestion, and vitality. The slow washing, chopping, and mixing of herbs created tactile engagement, while the gentle scent released during cooking produced a calming, immersive atmosphere. Herbs were sometimes used in teas, infusions, or simple decoctions, consumed for both health and sensory pleasure. The rhythm of preparing and using herbs encouraged attentiveness, reflection, and a subtle awareness of the interplay between internal nourishment and external appearance. Beverages also contributed to health and beauty. Water was often infused with herbs or flowers, providing gentle refreshment and subtle fragrance. Mild wines or diluted fruit juices were consumed in moderation, offering hydration, warmth, and gentle nourishment. Teas or infusions prepared from herbs supported digestion, clarity, and a sense of calm. Each sip, taken slowly and mindfully, was a small act of reflection connecting the body, mind, and senses to the rhythm of nourishment and aesthetic presence. Fasting and seasonal dietary restrictions also influenced appearance and vitality. Religious observances, personal discipline, or health advice sometimes required abstention from certain foods, emphasizing moderation and balance. These practices were deliberate, encouraging attentiveness to the body, subtle rhythms of hunger and satisfaction, and a reflective awareness of how sustenance affected both appearance and inner equilibrium. In these moments, restraint became a form of mindful engagement with both physical and aesthetic well-being. The preparation of meals itself became a meditative practice. Washing vegetables, kneading dough, chopping herbs, and stirring soups or stews required rhythm, patience, and focus. Each motion, each sensory interaction with textures, scents, and sounds produced calm, engagement, and awareness. The slow, deliberate process of transforming raw ingredients into nourishing dishes reinforced the interconnectedness of care, beauty, and presence. Through these rituals, food became both sustenance and meditation, nurturing the body and soothing the mind. Meals were also social experiences, reinforcing the connection between diet, beauty, and cultural presence. Sharing food with family, neighbors, or guests created a rhythm of attentiveness, appreciation, and refinement. Presentation, seasoning, and the careful arrangement of dishes reflected both practicality and aesthetic care. Eating slowly, appreciating flavors, textures, and aromas, and observing the effect of food on one's own vitality reinforced a meditative awareness of nourishment, rhythm, and presence. In this way, medieval diet was both functional and deeply aesthetic, linking body, mind, and social harmony. In conclusion, medieval diet and nutrition were intimately connected to beauty, health, and reflective practice. The slow preparation and mindful consumption of grains, vegetables, fruits, meats, dairy, herbs, and spices created an immersive, sensory-rich rhythm that nurtured both body and mind. Each act of washing, chopping, kneading, cooking, or eating became a quiet meditation, engaging the senses, reinforcing attentiveness, and enhancing natural appearance. Tonight, as you imagine the warm aroma of bread, the subtle scent of herbs, the gentle colors of vegetables and fruits, allow your mind to drift into the sensory richness of medieval nourishment. Feel the rhythm of preparation, the texture of ingredients, the warmth of cooked meals, and the calm, reflective pleasure of mindful consumption. Let these slow, deliberate rituals guide you into relaxation, reflection, and gentle calm, embracing the timeless connection between diet, vitality, and beauty. Tonight, we turn our attention to the quiet and graceful practices that shaped physical presence in the medieval world. Exercise, posture, and deliberate movement were considered essential components of beauty, elegance, and health. Imagine a sunlit courtyard, the soft rustle of fabric, the gentle thrum of distant activity, and the faint scent of herbs drifting through the air. In this calm setting, individuals engage in routines that cultivate strength, flexibility, poise, and subtle refinement. Every motion, whether stretching, walking, or balancing, becomes a meditation, a deliberate connection between body, mind, and sensory awareness. Physical grace in the medieval period was closely tied to social perception. A noblewoman walking through a hall or a knight moving through a courtyard was expected to embody calm composure, balance, and poise. Posture was a silent language communicating confidence, virtue, and refinement. Sitting, standing, and moving with attentiveness required conscious engagement with the body, an awareness of alignment, and a gentle cultivation of muscular control. Imagine the slow, deliberate lifting of a chin, the subtle engagement of the shoulders, and the graceful positioning of hands while walking or standing. Each small adjustment reflected both internal discipline and aesthetic awareness. Daily routines often incorporated simple exercises designed to maintain flexibility, strength, and elegance. Gentle stretching, slow bending, and controlled movements were employed to align the spine, strengthen core muscles, and produce fluidity in motion. Walking itself was considered a form of exercise, with emphasis on balance, rhythm, and the harmonious movement of limbs. Noble courts sometimes encouraged training in dancing, which combined physical conditioning with social ritual and aesthetic refinement. The deliberate practice of movement, whether walking, stretching, or dancing, became a meditative engagement with the body, fostering calm, attentiveness, and presence. Balance was particularly valued as a sign of composure and grace. Standing, walking, or turning with stability and subtle control created an impression of quiet confidence and internal poise. Exercises to enhance balance included slow shifts of weight, controlled foot placement, and awareness of the center of gravity. These practices were repeated carefully, producing a rhythmic awareness of body alignment and gentle muscle engagement. Through attentive repetition, balance became a second nature, transforming ordinary movement into an artful expression of elegance and control. Strength and endurance were cultivated gradually, often through labor, routine activities, or controlled exercise. Carrying baskets, tending gardens, or practicing fencing or archery provided natural opportunities to build muscular tone and stamina. Each activity, though practical, contributed to physical presence, posture, and poise. The rhythm of daily work, when performed mindfully, became a gentle form of exercise, linking movement, purpose, and internal awareness. Even simple tasks could be transformed into immersive, reflective practice, nurturing the body while promoting subtle elegance. Gentle stretching was often employed to maintain flexibility and prevent stiffness. The slow raising of arms, bending at the waist, or circular movements of joints were performed with attention to breath, rhythm, and comfort. These exercises were quiet, immersive, and reflective, producing both physical benefit and mental calm. Stretching engaged the senses, feeling the extension of muscles, the gentle tension of joints, the soft rhythm of breathing, and fostered a meditative awareness of the body as it moved and responded. In this way, stretching was not merely functional but also calming, immersive, and aesthetically attentive. Dance played a dual role in physical conditioning and social refinement. Court dances, performed with measured steps and coordinated gestures, combined strength, balance, rhythm, and posture. Learning and practicing these dances required patience, attentiveness, and repetitive engagement, creating a meditative rhythm that harmonized movement with sensory awareness. The slow, deliberate patterns of dance produced both physical elegance and internal composure, reinforcing the idea that grace was cultivated, not merely inherited. Music, when present, provided a subtle guide to tempo, while the tactile sensation of movement grounded participants in awareness of body and environment. Martial training for men offered another avenue for cultivating physical elegance. Swordplay, archery, and horseback riding required coordination, balance, strength, and controlled movement. Though primarily practical, these activities also reinforced posture, poise, and awareness of body alignment. The slow, deliberate practice of movements, raising a sword, drawing a bow, or guiding a horse, engaged multiple senses and encouraged attentive presence. Each repetition was both functional and meditative, linking body, mind, and skill in quiet refinement. Even in moments of exertion, rhythm and calm were cultivated, merging strength with elegance. Breathing was an often overlooked aspect of medieval physical practice. Deep, controlled breaths supported posture, stability, and rhythm of movement. Whether walking, stretching, dancing, or practicing martial skills, attentiveness to breath produced calm, focus, and internal alignment. The soft inhalation and exhalation became a gentle guide for movement, creating a steady rhythm that harmonized physical exertion with meditative awareness. Breath connected the inner state with outward presence, reinforcing composure, grace, and quiet confidence. Children and young people were gradually introduced to these practices, learning posture, rhythm, and balance through games, play, and simple exercises. Walking with careful attention, balancing along paths, or mimicking the movements of adults provided early training in elegance and poise. These slow, reflective practices nurtured mindfulness, awareness, and body literacy, embedding habits that would influence appearance, presence, and composure throughout life. Even playful movements became meditative when approached with attentiveness, reinforcing the connection between daily activity and subtle refinement. Clothing and footwear also influenced posture and movement. Soft, layered garments encouraged fluid motion, while fitted clothing highlighted alignment and poise. Shoes were designed to allow controlled steps, often shaped to promote balance and rhythm. The slow adjustment of clothing, careful positioning of fabric, and attention to weight distribution all contributed to deliberate, graceful movement. Each adjustment encouraged mindfulness, tactile engagement, and awareness of how the body interacted with its environment. Physical elegance was thus a combination of bodily practice, careful attention to attire, and reflective presence. Hydration and diet were recognized as supportive elements for physical elegance. Water, herbal infusions, and gentle teas maintained vitality, while nourishing foods supported strength, energy, and natural posture. A slow, deliberate approach to eating and drinking encouraged awareness of bodily needs, producing sustained composure, subtle energy, and visual vitality. The connection between nourishment, bodily function, and outward grace reinforced the holistic philosophy that health, beauty, and movement were inseparable. Social etiquette further reinforced physical training. Gentle movements while greeting others, maintaining eye contact, sitting with proper posture, and walking with composure were all carefully observed. These routines encouraged a slow, mindful engagement with movement, producing internal calm and external elegance. Even subtle gestures, the tilt of a head, the positioning of hands, or the rhythm of steps, conveyed refinement, composure, and attentiveness. Through these repeated practices, movement itself became a form of meditation, cultivating grace, calm, and subtle social literacy. Gentle massage and touch, complemented medieval exercise. Oils, herbs, and warm cloths were applied to muscles to soothe tension, maintain suppleness, and promote circulation. The slow, rhythmic engagement of hands with skin and muscle encouraged awareness of body alignment, tension, and relaxation. These practices reinforced the meditative qualities of exercise and movement, producing both internal calm and external elegance. The sensory richness of touch, scent, and warmth created an immersive, reflective experience that harmonized body and mind. In conclusion, medieval exercise, posture, and physical elegance were deeply intertwined with aesthetics, mindfulness, and meditative practice. Slow, deliberate movement, careful attention to posture, balanced walking, rhythmic stretching, and thoughtful engagement with dance, martial training, and daily activity cultivated both composure and grace. Breathing, tactile awareness, and gentle reflection on bodily alignment reinforced calm and presence. Every step, gesture, and stretch became a meditative act, nurturing the body, enhancing visual elegance, and fostering quiet confidence. Tonight, as you imagine gentle stretches, measured steps, rhythmic dances, and subtle movements through quiet chambers or sunlit courtyards, allow yourself to sense the flow of energy, the alignment of body, and the harmony of motion. Feel the gentle rhythm of breath guiding each step, the subtle engagement of muscles, and the meditative awareness of presence. Let the slow, immersive practices of medieval physical elegance carry your mind and body into calm reflection, relaxation, and a gentle restorative serenity, embracing the timeless art of movement as a form of beauty, poise, and internal peace. Tonight, we turn our attention to the soft, intricate world of medieval fashion, clothing, and accessories, a subtle language of beauty, status, and self-expression. Imagine the quiet hush of a chamber, sunlight filtering through latticed windows, the faint aroma of lavender and herbs lingering in the air. Gowns, tunics, cloaks, and finely woven fabrics are laid across tables and benches, delicate threads catching the light, embroidered patterns and trim hinting at both skill and care. Each garment, each accessory, tells a story of patience, refinement, and deliberate choice, inviting us to move slowly into reflection and sensory awareness. Clothing in the medieval period was not merely utilitarian. It was a canvas for elegance, identity, and cultural expression. Fabrics were chosen with care, colors selected thoughtfully, and silhouettes crafted to balance comfort, movement, and appearance. Linen, wool, silk, and, in wealthier circles, velvet or brocade were handled with gentle attention, the touch of fingers smoothing folds and examining textures. Wearing a garment became a slow, deliberate process, each movement mindful, from lifting a sleeve to securing a cloak with a clasp, reinforcing presence, rhythm, and composure. Layering was central to both fashion and function. Undergarments provided comfort and hygiene, while outer layers shaped silhouette, indicated status, and protected from the elements. The layering process was deliberate, adjusting a chemise, smoothing a tunic, arranging a gown over a belt or sash. Gentle folding and tucking of fabrics ensured harmony, subtle elegance, and freedom of movement. The act of dressing itself became a reflective ritual, connecting the wearer to textures, patterns, colors, and the rhythm of movement, producing both calm and subtle empowerment. Colors held significance beyond aesthetics. Deep blues, rich reds, and soft pastels indicated social status, family affiliations, or personal taste. Dyes were carefully produced, extracted from plants, insects, or minerals, and applied to fabrics with painstaking attention. The gentle brushing of cloth against the skin, the subtle play of light across dyed surfaces, and the rhythmic folding of garments engaged the senses in quiet delight. Wearing these colors was both a visual and tactile experience, producing a slow, immersive awareness of self, surroundings, and cultural identity. Belts, sashes, and girdles were not only functional but expressive. They accentuated the waist, framed garments, and provided structure to flowing fabrics. Adjusting a belt required deliberate movement, careful tightening, and subtle observation of alignment. Decorative buckles, embroidery, or small charms added personality, highlighting refinement and attentiveness. Each small adjustment became a meditative action, inviting focus, calm, and sensory engagement. Through belts and sashes, clothing became a tool for both aesthetic balance and reflective composure. Accessories extended the narrative of fashion and elegance. Jewelry, brooches, rings, necklaces, and circlets, was chosen with care, complementing garments, hairstyle, and occasion. The gentle weight of a circlet, the soft click of a clasp, or the shimmer of gemstones catching sunlight created tactile and visual pleasure. Even small details like embroidered gloves, ribboned laces, or delicately stitched hems were attended to slowly, producing a meditative rhythm of refinement. Each accessory was an extension of presence, enhancing subtle elegance, sensory awareness, and personal expression. Headwear, including wimples, veils, hats, and hoods, framed the face and completed outfits with grace. These items were adjusted slowly, the folds of fabric smoothed, and pins or ties secured with careful attention. The gentle pressure of a veil or the soft placement of a hood against hair created tactile sensation, connecting body and mind in a reflective moment. Headwear also guided posture, encouraging a lifted chin, graceful tilt, and attentive alignment, reinforcing the interplay between clothing, elegance, and poise. Footwear was equally considered, influencing both comfort and presence. Soft leather shoes, pointed or rounded depending on region and fashion, were laced or tied carefully to ensure stability, balance, and subtle elegance in movement. Boots for practical or outdoor use were shaped to protect and support the foot while maintaining refined motion. The act of slipping into shoes, tightening laces, or adjusting fit became a slow, attentive gesture, engaging touch, rhythm, and awareness of posture and stride. Decorative stitching, embroidery, and trims were subtle yet powerful elements of medieval fashion. Patterns of flowers, geometric shapes, or heraldic symbols were applied with meticulous care, transforming plain fabric into a sensory-rich experience. The slow, repetitive motions of needlework, the tactile engagement with threads, and the gentle play of light across textured surfaces encouraged patience, calm, and reflective immersion. Garments thus became not only visual statements but meditative artifacts, connecting wearer and maker in a shared rhythm of care and attentiveness. Outer garments, such as cloaks and mantles, were adjusted and draped with deliberate attention. The gentle weight of fabric, the smooth glide across shoulders, and the rhythmic folding or fastening with clasps engaged both body and senses. Cloaks could also be lined with furs, creating subtle warmth and texture, enhancing comfort while reinforcing elegance. The immersive rhythm of arranging outer layers reinforced presence, mindfulness, and a quiet connection to both body and environment. Fashion also responded to seasonal and environmental considerations. Winter garments were layered for warmth, often incorporating heavy wool or fur, while summer attire favored lighter linens and breathable fabrics. Even within these functional choices, attention to silhouette, color, and texture remained, producing a slow, meditative engagement with clothing that balanced comfort, aesthetic, and seasonal rhythm. The deliberate selection and adjustment of garments created a reflective practice, fostering calm, attentiveness, and subtle elegance. Social and ceremonial occasions further shaped clothing practices. Festivities, religious observances, and gatherings required heightened attention to detail, careful coordination of garments, accessories, and headwear. Dressing for such occasions was slow and immersive, often involving attendants or family members, enhancing social bonds and reinforcing the meditative qualities of preparation. Every fold, clasp, and accessory placement became a reflection of patience, presence, and aesthetic awareness, transforming clothing into both art and ritual. Maintenance of garments also contributed to beauty and calm. Washing, mending, and careful storage ensured longevity, subtle fragrance, and tactile pleasure. Folding linens, brushing dust from outerwear, and lightly infusing fabrics with herbs or flowers engaged the senses in slow, deliberate motions. The quiet rhythm of caring for clothing mirrored the meditative qualities of wearing it, reinforcing the interconnectedness of aesthetic presence, sensory awareness, and reflective practice. Even the simplest task of smoothing a sleeve or aligning a hem became a moment of gentle engagement with beauty. Diet, exercise, and clothing combined to produce a holistic sense of presence and elegance. The softness of skin, the sheen of hair, and the vitality of posture were reflected and complemented by garments, fabrics, and accessories. Each element, body, movement, clothing, and adornment, was attended to with slow, immersive care, producing harmony between internal vitality and external appearance. In this way, fashion became not merely a statement of style, but a meditative practice, integrating sensory awareness, reflection, and subtle elegance. In conclusion, medieval fashion, clothing, and accessories were deeply immersive practices, blending aesthetic refinement, social signaling, and meditative awareness. The slow arrangement of garments, careful adjustment of belts and sashes, thoughtful placement of accessories, and reflective engagement with textures, colors, and patterns produced calm, composure, and subtle beauty. Clothing became an extension of presence, enhancing posture, movement, and internal awareness. Tonight, as you imagine the gentle unfolding of gowns, the soft glide of fabrics across skin, the rhythmic fastening of belts, and the careful placement of jewelry or headwear, allow yourself to drift into the tactile, visual, and reflective serenity of medieval dress. Feel the textures, notice the subtle fragrances, sense the weight and flow of fabrics, and let the slow, deliberate rituals of dressing guide your mind and body into relaxation, calm, and gentle restoration. Embracing the timeless artistry of clothing as both meditation and expression of beauty. Tonight, we enter the subtle and fragrant world of medieval cosmetics, skin treatments, and perfumes. A world where careful attention to appearance, scent, and tactile experience formed an intimate ritual of beauty and self-awareness. Imagine a quiet chamber, the soft glow of morning or candlelight illuminating jars, bowls, and small wooden boxes, each containing powders, oils, or fragrant essences. A gentle breeze carries the faint aroma of roses, lavender, and herbs, mingling with the warm scent of beeswax and oils. Every gesture, dipping a finger into an ointment, rubbing a cream into the skin, or sprinkling a few drops of perfume, becomes a meditative act, inviting calm, presence, and sensory immersion. Cosmetics in medieval times were subtle and deliberate, enhancing natural features rather than concealing them completely. Pale, smooth skin was highly prized, associated with health, refinement, and status. To achieve this, women and men alike employed gentle powders, creams, and pastes made from finely ground minerals, chalk, or naturally derived pigments. These were applied slowly, often with the fingertips or soft brushes, smoothing and blending to produce a delicate, even tone. The act itself, careful, repetitive, and mindful, transformed preparation into meditation, creating a gentle rhythm of touch, observation, and subtle visual enhancement. Skin treatments were similarly immersive. Cleansing, moisturizing, and soothing the skin relied on natural ingredients, often infused with herbs, flowers, or subtle fragrances. Waters infused with rose petals, chamomile, or lavender were used to wash the face, leaving a gentle scent and soft texture. Oils from almonds, olives, or herbs were applied in small, rhythmic motions, massaged into the skin to nourish, soften, and protect. Each touch engaged both tactile and olfactory senses, producing a calming and reflective sensory experience. The slow application of these treatments encouraged attentiveness, patience, and gentle care, reinforcing a sense of inner and outer harmony. Perfumes held a special place in medieval beauty rituals. Extracted from flowers, resins, and spices, perfumes were not only appreciated for fragrance, but believed to influence mood, vitality, and social presence. A drop of rose, lavender, or sandalwood essence on the skin, a light sprinkle of powder perfumed with herbs, or a gentle dab behind the ears created a subtle, lingering presence. The act of applying perfume was deliberate and mindful, inviting reflection and sensory awareness. The soft, aromatic trail left behind encouraged calm, attention, and an immersive engagement with both body and environment. Eye and lip enhancements were applied subtly, enhancing features without overpowering natural expression. Gentle tints derived from berries, flowers, or minerals produced soft coloration on lips or cheeks. These tints were applied with care, in slow, deliberate motions, blending naturally with skin tone. Eyes were highlighted using soft, smoky powders or subtle lining, enhancing depth and expression. Each gesture, each careful sweep of color, encouraged attentiveness and quiet engagement, transforming simple cosmetic application into a meditative act that harmonized appearance and sensory experience. Hair treatments intertwined with cosmetics and perfumes. Oils infused with herbs or flowers were applied to strands and scalp to enhance shine, texture, and fragrance. Gentle brushing or combing distributed oils evenly, while subtle tints or powders accentuated color and luster. The slow, rhythmic motions of brushing, the tactile sensation of strands gliding through fingers, and the lingering aroma of herbs all contributed to an immersive sensory ritual. Hair care, cosmetics, and perfumes thus merged into a harmonious practice of beauty, presence, and mindfulness. Special treatments addressed particular concerns or goals. To soften skin, baths infused with milk, honey, or floral waters were taken, encouraging relaxation, hydration, and sensory indulgence. Exfoliating pastes, often made from finely ground grains or herbs, were applied gently to remove dead skin and encourage smoothness. Masks of natural clays combined with soothing herbs were applied carefully and left to rest, producing both tactile and aromatic engagement. Each treatment was slow, deliberate, and reflective, transforming daily or occasional routines into immersive, meditative experiences of care and presence. Medicinal and cosmetic overlap was common. Many treatments served dual purposes, soothing skin, enhancing appearance, or protecting against environmental effects. Aloe, chamomile, rosewater, and various herbal extracts were used in both therapeutic and aesthetic contexts. The preparation of these remedies, crushing, steeping, mixing, and applying, required patience, rhythm, and sensory attention. Engaging with these processes encouraged mindfulness, quiet focus, and reflective observation, reinforcing the meditative nature of medieval beauty practices. Fragrance extended beyond personal cosmetics. Scented gloves, embroidered sachets, perfumed handkerchiefs, and lightly scented clothing enhanced the sensory presence of an individual. The careful placement of a sachet in a sleeve or the gentle unfolding of a perfumed cloth became a quiet act of ritual and reflection. The subtle aromas lingered in movement, creating a delicate, immersive aura that complemented posture, gesture, and overall elegance. Perfume, in this way, was both a personal indulgence and an extension of social grace, reinforcing calm, presence, and attentive refinement. Gender differences influenced the selection and application of cosmetics and perfumes. Women generally employed a wider range of creams, powders, and tints, while men favored subtle enhancements to skin and fragrance. Despite these distinctions, the underlying principles of slow, mindful application, sensory awareness, and reflective care were consistent. Both genders engaged in rituals that encouraged presence, calm and subtle enhancement of natural features, integrating tactile, visual, and olfactory engagement into daily or ceremonial routines. The sensory richness of medieval cosmetic rituals extended to preparation. Crushing petals, infusing oils, mixing powders, and steeping herbs were slow, deliberate acts, producing gentle aroma, tactile engagement, and visual satisfaction. Each stage, watching colors blend, feeling textures change, inhaling the subtle fragrance, produced quiet reflection and presence. Preparation itself became meditative, transforming functional or decorative tasks into immersive experiences of care, patience, and sensory delight. Social and ceremonial contexts heightened the significance of cosmetics, skin treatments, and perfumes. Weddings, courtly gatherings, religious observances, and festivals demanded heightened attention to appearance and sensory presence. Cosmetics were applied carefully, hair and skin treated with gentle oils, and perfumes chosen to harmonize with attire and occasion. These slow, immersive preparations were shared rituals, often assisted by attendants, family members, or peers. Each gesture, smoothing, blending, applying scent, reinforced social bonds, mindfulness, and reflective engagement, transforming beauty into an artful practice of calm presence. Maintenance of cosmetics and skin treatments reinforced their meditative quality. Powders and creams were stored carefully, perfumes sealed in small containers, and jars of oils arranged thoughtfully. Replenishing supplies, cleaning tools, and organizing the space encouraged reflective engagement, patience, and attention to detail. These slow acts of care mirrored the rhythms of application and preparation, reinforcing sensory immersion, presence, and subtle elegance. Even the quiet act of arranging cosmetics on a table became a meditative ritual, producing calm and focus. Beauty in medieval cosmetics was inseparable from holistic care. Diet, hair care, exercise, posture, and clothing all complemented these rituals, producing harmony between inner health, external appearance, and sensory awareness. Smooth, nourished skin, fragrant hair, and subtle enhancements to lips, eyes, and cheeks were not isolated pursuits but the culmination of deliberate, reflective practices integrating multiple aspects of daily life. The slow, attentive engagement with cosmetics, perfumes, and treatments harmonized the senses, produced calm, and cultivated a serene, graceful presence. In conclusion, medieval cosmetics, skin treatments, and perfumes were immersive practices that combined aesthetic refinement, sensory awareness, and meditative reflection. Each gesture, applying cream, brushing powder, massaging oil, or dabbing perfume, was deliberate and rhythmic, fostering calm, presence, and subtle elegance. The tactile sensation of creams, the visual harmony of powders and tints, and the olfactory immersion of fragrant oils and infusions engaged the senses fully, producing quiet reflection and sensory delight. Tonight, as you imagine gentle application of creams, soft aroma of roses or herbs, the rhythmic blending of powders, and the careful placement of perfume, allow yourself to drift into a serene, meditative state. Feel each motion, inhale each subtle scent, and let the slow, immersive rituals of medieval beauty guide your mind and body into relaxation, reflection, and gentle restoration, embracing the timeless artistry of cosmetics as meditation, sensory engagement, and expression of beauty. Tonight, we step into the quiet and restorative world of medieval rituals, baths and spa practices, a world where water, herbs, scents, and slow, deliberate motions cultivated both beauty and inner calm. Imagine a softly lit bathhouse or a private chamber, sunlight glinting off wooden tubs, the faint scent of rosemary, lavender, or rose petals drifting through the air. Water, warm and inviting, fills vessels and basins, reflecting gentle ripples and soft light. Towels, linens, brushes, and bowls are arranged thoughtfully, ready for careful, meditative engagement. Each gesture, pouring water, brushing skin, or inhaling the subtle aroma of herbs, becomes a quiet ritual, inviting presence, reflection, and serene relaxation. Bathing in medieval times was both practical and symbolic, a fusion of cleanliness, beauty, and sensory indulgence. While hygiene standards varied by region and social status, bathing was consistently approached as a deliberate, immersive experience. Water, often infused with flowers, herbs, or essential oils, was poured slowly over the body, the temperature carefully balanced for comfort and relaxation. Each pour, each ripple, engaged tactile awareness, connecting the individual to the soothing flow and warmth of water. The gentle motion, the soft sound of trickling liquid, and the faint fragrance produced a rhythm of sensory engagement, calm reflection, and mindful presence. Herbal infusions were central to the bathing experience. Lavender, rose, chamomile, rosemary, and mint were commonly used, each selected for its soothing scent, subtle color, and perceived beneficial effects on the skin and spirit. Flowers might be sprinkled directly into the bath, dried herbs steeped in warm water, or essential oils lightly applied. The gentle aroma created a quiet, enveloping atmosphere, enhancing sensory immersion while promoting relaxation. The tactile sensation of water mingling with herbal essences combined with olfactory delight produced a meditative engagement with the body and environment. Scrubbing, brushing, and gentle massage complemented the water itself. Brushes made of natural fibers or soft cloths were used to exfoliate and smooth the skin, following slow, rhythmic motions from limbs to torso. Oils infused with herbs or flowers were massaged into the skin afterward, nourishing and softening, leaving a gentle sheen and subtle fragrance. Each touch engaged tactile senses, produced reflective awareness, and reinforced a sense of calm presence. The repetitive, deliberate motions of bathing became a meditative dance, connecting mind, body, and sensory perception in quiet harmony. Baths also included specialized treatments for skin, hair, and overall vitality. Mud or clay pastes, sometimes enriched with herbs or mineral powders, were applied carefully to areas of the body, left to rest, and then rinsed. These treatments were believed to cleanse, soften, and refresh, while the slow application and gentle removal encouraged mindfulness and attentive presence. Hair, washed separately or during the bath, was treated with gentle herbal rinses and oils, combed slowly and arranged to enhance shine and texture. Every stage of bathing became a sensory-rich ritual, blending practical care with meditative engagement. Temperature and pacing were carefully observed. Warm water encouraged muscle relaxation, while cooler rinses invigorated circulation. Each step, filling the tub, adjusting water temperature, pouring, rinsing, was deliberate, slow, and rhythmic. The gentle sound of water, the soft movement of hands through liquid, and the tactile engagement with herbal textures reinforced sensory immersion and meditative calm. Bathing became a full-bodied experience, engaging sight, touch, smell, and sound, producing a deep sense of relaxation and presence. Public bathhouses existed in towns and cities, combining hygiene, social interaction, and ritual. Visitors often followed a sequence of cleansing, bathing, and sometimes massage while observing decorum and etiquette. Even in communal settings, the experience was reflective. Gentle attention to movement, awareness of posture, and appreciation of aromas and textures produced calm and composure. Rituals of cleansing, when shared with others, created subtle rhythms of social harmony and sensory awareness, blending personal care with attentive presence. Private baths, especially in noble households, allowed for more elaborate and meditative practices. Water might be infused with multiple herbs, petals, or essential oils, and temperatures carefully controlled for comfort and relaxation. Attendants often assisted, applying oils, scrubbing gently, or arranging towels and linens, creating a ceremonial, immersive experience. The slow, deliberate attention of both the individual and attendants reinforced mindfulness, calm, and reflective engagement with the body and senses. Bathing in these contexts became both a personal indulgence and a ritual of refinement, aligning inner vitality with outward elegance. Perfumes and scented oils extended the spa experience beyond water. After bathing, the skin was gently rubbed with lightly scented oils, enhancing smoothness, fragrance, and tactile pleasure. Perfumed powders, sometimes infused with subtle herbs, were applied to maintain softness and aroma throughout the day. The deliberate application of fragrance combined with post-bath grooming created a slow, immersive sequence that connected body, mind, and sensory awareness. Each gesture became an act of presence, attention, and meditative reflection. Rituals often incorporated mindfulness and reflection. While bathing, individuals might close their eyes, focus on breath, and attune to sensory impressions. The warmth of water, the softness of oils, the scent of herbs, and the sound of rippling liquid. Each movement, pouring, massaging, rinsing, was deliberate, reinforcing calm, inner awareness, and attentiveness. Bathing thus became more than hygiene. It was a practice of contemplative engagement with body, mind, and environment, producing a deep sense of serenity and presence. Special occasions and seasonal practices heightened the meditative quality of baths. Festivals, weddings, or religious observances might involve enhanced bathing rituals, including multiple herbal infusions, fragrant oils, and elaborate sequences of cleansing and massage. Preparation and ritualized execution required patience, rhythm, and attention to detail, creating immersive experiences of calm, reflection, and sensory indulgence. Every action, scooping water, arranging herbs, applying oils, was deliberate, rhythmic, and reflective, reinforcing the meditative essence of medieval spa practices. Children and youth were introduced gradually to bathing rituals, often learning the rhythm of pouring, gentle washing, and the tactile engagement with water and herbs. These slow, deliberate practices instilled habits of mindfulness, attention, and reflective care. Even simple actions, pouring water, rubbing softly, or inhaling gentle aromas, produced sensory engagement, calm, and awareness of bodily presence. Rituals became formative experiences nurturing both hygiene and meditative attention to self and environment. The combination of diet, exercise, grooming, clothing, and bathing created a holistic philosophy of beauty and presence. Each aspect reinforced the other, producing harmony between internal vitality, external elegance, and sensory awareness. Baths and spa practices were particularly immersive, engaging touch, smell, sight, and subtle movement, producing deep relaxation, calm, and a gentle, restorative rhythm. The slow, reflective care of water, herbs, oils, and scented elements nurtured both body and mind, connecting practical hygiene with aesthetic refinement and meditative attention. In conclusion, medieval rituals, baths, and spa practices were immersive experiences that harmonized cleanliness, beauty, and mindfulness. The deliberate pouring of water, the slow brushing and massaging of skin, the gentle application of oils, and the fragrant presence of herbs and perfumes produced sensory-rich engagement and meditative calm. Bathing became a reflective practice, linking body, mind, and environment in slow, deliberate, and soothing rhythm. Tonight, as you imagine warm water cascading over skin, the soft aroma of herbs and petals, the gentle rhythm of oils being massaged in, and the quiet tactile engagement of cleansing, allow yourself to drift into serene reflection. Let the immersive rituals of medieval baths and spa practices guide your mind and body into calm relaxation, gentle restoration, and quiet meditation. embracing the timeless art of water, scent, and touch as pathways to beauty, presence, and inner tranquility. Tonight, we explore the intricate rituals of beauty in the medieval world and the profound social significance these practices carried. Imagine the quiet bustle of a medieval manor, the soft rustle of gowns, the faint fragrance of herbs and perfumes, and the gentle hum of attendants preparing for a day or a ceremony. Beauty was never merely personal. It was a statement of social presence, an emblem of virtue, status, and identity, woven into every careful gesture, every meticulously prepared detail. Each ritual, be it washing, dressing, perfuming, or arranging hair, was both a reflection of inner discipline and an outward expression of social understanding, a deliberate performance of grace and refinement. Beauty rituals were intertwined with social hierarchy. The nobility and wealthy classes had access to rare ingredients, imported fabrics, fine perfumes, and skilled attendants who guided them through intricate preparations. These rituals were slow, deliberate, and layered, combining bathing, grooming, dressing, and fragrance in immersive sequences. Each act, adjusting a sleeve, smoothing a collar, arranging a veil, or applying a fragrant oil, was a statement of refinement, signaling awareness of etiquette, attention to detail, and subtle mastery over appearance. Even the choice of color, fabric, or accessory communicated social standing, personal taste, and cultural literacy. Rituals of beauty extended beyond the individual, often involving attendants, family members, or social peers. In noble households, dressing might take hours, with helpers adjusting layers, smoothing fabrics, and carefully applying cosmetics and perfumes. These shared rituals reinforced bonds, cultivated attentiveness, and created immersive sensory environments where fragrance, texture, sound, and visual harmony combined. The slow rhythm of preparation encouraged reflection, calm, and sensory engagement, transforming everyday tasks into meditative performances that aligned internal vitality with outward elegance. Public appearances, festivals, and religious ceremonies heightened the significance of beauty rituals. Individuals prepared meticulously, knowing that posture, clothing, grooming, and fragrance were all observed and interpreted by peers and society at large. Gentle gestures, the alignment of the body, and the careful arrangement of clothing communicated composure, virtue, and refinement. The slow, deliberate practice of these rituals created a meditative awareness of self in relation to others, blending mindfulness, social acumen, and aesthetic sensibility. The symbolism of beauty extended to moral and spiritual dimensions. Pale, smooth skin, well-maintained hair, and subtle fragrance were often associated with virtue, cleanliness, and discipline. Engaging in rituals of grooming was not merely for appearance. It was a reflection of self-respect, patience, and adherence to cultural ideals. In some contexts, beauty rituals were considered extensions of moral cultivation, reinforcing inner harmony, attentiveness, and social propriety. Every gesture, every careful preparation carried layers of meaning beyond the immediate sensory and aesthetic effect. Perfumes and scents were particularly significant in social and ritual contexts. Fragrance marked presence, conveyed refinement, and created a subtle aura of elegance. The careful application of oils, powders, or scented sachets before social engagements was a deliberate act of preparation and signaling. Attending a feast, meeting guests, or participating in a procession meant that scent, along with posture, dress, and grooming, communicated social literacy and awareness. The immersive qualities of fragrance, tactile, olfactory, and reflective reinforced calm, attention, and meditative engagement, connecting inner preparation with outward expression. Hair and headwear rituals were equally symbolic. Elaborate braiding, curling, or arranging of hair, often combined with veils, circlets, or ribbons, required slow, deliberate action and attentive presence. Hairstyles and adornments reflected status, cultural affiliation, and personal refinement, serving as subtle social signals. The repetitive, rhythmic engagement with hair, combing, oiling, braiding, was meditative, fostering composure, sensory awareness, and a gentle, immersive connection to body and appearance. Headwear adjusted with care also encouraged posture and movement that reinforced elegance and poise, linking social expectation with mindful presence. Dressing rituals reinforced balance, symmetry, and harmony. Layers of garments, carefully arranged belts, sashes or girdles, and accessories placed with precision produced a visual rhythm that complemented posture, movement, and overall presence. Dressing slowly, attending to folds, textures, and alignment allowed the individual to feel fully embodied and mindful. Each deliberate action contributed not only to external beauty, but to internal calm and reflective focus. These rituals became immersive practices, aligning tactile, visual, and spatial awareness with social expectation and personal aesthetic. Rituals were also shaped by seasonal, religious, and ceremonial rhythms. Festivals, weddings, and religious observances required heightened preparation, often following prescribed sequences of bathing, dressing, grooming, and perfuming. Each stage was deliberate, cleansing with herbal waters, applying oils, arranging hair, selecting garments, and adding subtle accessories or perfumes. The slow pace encouraged attentiveness, patience, and presence, producing a quiet, immersive reflection on both personal care and social awareness. These practices reinforced a sense of order, rhythm, and connectedness within community life, integrating beauty, behavior, and cultural literacy. Children and young people learned these rituals gradually, observing adults participating in simple grooming tasks and mimicking gestures cultivated early awareness of posture, composure, and refinement. The slow introduction to cosmetics, clothing, and fragrance encouraged sensory literacy and attentiveness, creating habits that extended into adulthood. Even playful imitation became a reflective, immersive practice, linking observation, movement, and gradual skill development. Through these early lessons, the meditative and social dimensions of beauty were instilled, producing subtle understanding of aesthetics, etiquette, and personal care. Beyond personal and social presence, beauty rituals often intersected with health and hygiene. Cleansing, bathing, and the application of creams, oils, and fragrances supported skin health, hair vitality, and overall well-being. The deliberate engagement with these routines encouraged awareness of bodily condition, subtle observation of complexion and posture, and reflective care. In this sense, beauty rituals were holistic. They nurtured body, mind, and social presence simultaneously, creating a harmonious interplay of function, aesthetics, and meditative engagement. Maintenance and preparation rituals were equally important. Ingredients for cosmetics, perfumes, and treatments were gathered, stored, and prepared with care. Herbs, flowers, oils, and powders were combined thoughtfully, sometimes following elaborate recipes or family traditions. Each step, crushing petals, mixing oils, infusing powders, required patience and attentiveness, producing gentle aroma, tactile pleasure, and visual harmony. Preparation itself became a meditative practice, reinforcing the immersive qualities of beauty rituals and connecting individual care with cultural knowledge and sensory engagement. In conclusion, medieval rituals of beauty were deeply intertwined with social significance, sensory engagement, and meditative presence. Every act, bathing, grooming, dressing, perfuming, and arranging hair, was deliberate, slow, and reflective, producing calm, attentiveness, and subtle elegance. Rituals reinforced social hierarchy, etiquette, and cultural literacy, while also nurturing inner harmony, bodily awareness, and aesthetic refinement. Tonight, as you imagine the gentle preparation of oils, the rhythmic brushing of hair, the careful arrangement of garments, and the subtle application of fragrance, allow yourself to drift into a serene, reflective state. Feel the slow rhythm of rituals, the immersive sensory details, and the quiet presence cultivated through deliberate care. Let the meditative practices of medieval beauty guide your mind and body into calm, relaxation, and gentle restoration, embracing the timeless artistry of ritual as both social expression and personal meditation. As we draw our journey through the delicate world of medieval beauty to a close, let us linger in the quiet reflections that such practices inspire. Imagine a soft twilight filtering through latticed windows, the faint aroma of herbs and oils lingering in the air, and the gentle hush of a chamber where every object, the folded garment, the polished comb, the jar of perfumed oil, tells a story of care, patience, and reflection. Here, the rituals of beauty were never hasty. They were slow, immersive, and meditative, a daily symphony of presence, sensory engagement, and quiet elegance. Medieval beauty was never solely about appearance. It was about harmony between body, mind, and environment, between inner vitality and outward expression. The pale, smooth skin, the carefully arranged hair, the subtle fragrance, and the measured movements of posture and gait were all reflections of attention, mindfulness, and deliberate care. Each ritual, from bathing to dressing, from applying perfumes to arranging garments, invited a gentle awareness, an intimate engagement with the senses, and a meditative rhythm that extended beyond aesthetics into calm reflection and self-presence. Consider, for a moment, the slow gestures of a noblewoman smoothing her gown, aligning her veil, and applying a delicate fragrance. Each movement carries patience and intention. The fingers glide over fabric and skin with awareness. The scent of lavender or rose lingers, drawing the mind into calm observation. Even the act of bending, standing, or turning is infused with poise, creating a silent dialogue between body, mind, and space. These small, deliberate actions, repeated daily, cultivate a rhythm that is both aesthetic and reflective, a meditative practice disguised as elegance. Beauty rituals were also deeply social, interwoven with expectations, etiquette, and communal awareness. Dressing and grooming with care, wearing perfumes, and attending to posture and movement communicated virtue, refinement, and social literacy. In festivals, religious ceremonies, or casual interactions, appearance became a language of subtle meaning. Yet, within this social framework, mindfulness prevailed. Every gesture, folding a sleeve, tying a sash, applying oil, invited attention to sensation, rhythm, and alignment. The meditative quality of these actions transcended status, enveloping both noble and commoner in quiet reflection and sensory awareness. Perfume and fragrance, in particular, connected the inner self with the outer world. The gentle aroma of herbs, flowers, and oils was more than sensory pleasure. It was a bridge to calm and attentiveness. Each drop, dab, or sprinkling of scent was deliberate, producing an immersive rhythm of presence. Combined with skin treatments, bathing, and cosmetics, fragrance created layers of subtle engagement, grounding the mind while enhancing outward beauty. Inhale, and the soft whisper of lavender or rose draws you into the careful, deliberate pace of medieval life, where sensory immersion and reflective calm are inseparable. Hair and clothing were extensions of this meditative practice. Braiding, curling, arranging, and smoothing hair engaged tactile awareness and rhythm. Draping gowns, adjusting belts, and layering fabrics invited gentle observation, encouraging attention to balance, symmetry, and poise. Every fold, tuck, and smoothing gesture was a mindful action, producing subtle harmony between body, movement, and environment. Even the weight of a cloak or the texture of silk beneath fingertips became an element of sensory meditation, linking touch, sight, and presence in quiet reflection. The holistic approach of medieval beauty rituals reminds us of the interplay between external care and internal well-being. Exercise, posture, diet, grooming, clothing, cosmetics, perfumes, and bathing were all interconnected. Each practice nurtured health, elegance, and sensory awareness. They cultivated calm, patience, and attentive presence. By attending to the body and senses with intention, the medieval individual embraced a rhythm of life that was deliberate, immersive, and restorative, a practice of meditation expressed through elegance, appearance, and movement. Even the simplest rituals, repeated daily, were transformative. A soft brush across the skin, a gentle dab of scented oil, a slow adjustment of clothing, or the mindful folding of linens engaged senses cultivated calm and reinforced a subtle sense of self-presence. These repetitive, immersive actions, carried out with patience and attentiveness, created a rhythm that echoed throughout the day, producing serenity and reflective awareness that extended beyond the immediate practice. Tonight, as you imagine the quiet chambers, the gentle flow of water in a bath, the delicate touch of oil on skin, the subtle fragrance of herbs and flowers, and the measured folds of soft fabrics, allow your mind to drift into the rhythm of these meditative practices. Feel the slow pace, the tactile sensations, the gentle fragrances, and the harmony of deliberate, graceful movements. Let your body and mind attune to this serene rhythm, releasing tension, quieting thought, and embracing a gentle, restorative calm. Medieval beauty, with all its careful attention, ritual, and sensory richness, was a practice of connection to self, to environment, and to others. It reminds us that elegance is not merely visual, but experiential. It is in the deliberate touch, the mindful gesture, the reflective breath, and the attentive presence. It is in the harmony of body, mind, and ritual. Tonight, allow yourself to absorb this essence, to imagine the delicate immersion of medieval practices, and to let your own body and mind move slowly into the quiet rhythm of care, presence, and restorative calm. In this gentle reflection, let the delicate art of medieval beauty guide you. The soft fragrances, the tactile motions, the careful layering of garments, the rhythmic rituals of bathing and perfuming, all converge to create a meditative space where relaxation, calm, and quiet observation thrive. Let your mind linger in these images, these soft gestures, and the immersive, reflective pace of life as it once was. Feel each motion, each scent, each texture, connecting body, mind, and environment in quiet harmony. As your thoughts drift, imagine the day concluding in a chamber bathed in soft light, where every detail, the folded garments, the perfumed linens, the polished combs, the lingering scent of herbs, resonates with care and calm. In this space, the rituals of beauty are complete, leaving a sense of serenity, attentiveness, and gentle reflection. Let the echoes of this medieval rhythm settle in your mind, quieting thought, softening tension, and carrying you into a restful, immersive calm. Now, allow the quiet presence of these slow, meditative rituals to settle over you fully. Breathe deeply, notice the subtle rhythm of your body, and imagine the gentle continuity of touch, scent, and sight flowing through each action. Let the immersive sensory awareness, the calm deliberation, and the reflective patience of medieval beauty guide you into a state of deep relaxation, serenity, and restorative peace. Tonight, let this reflection carry you gently into sleep, where the timeless artistry of medieval care, elegance, and meditative ritual becomes a quiet companion to your dreams.